Aita for congratulating my now ex-boyfriend and my coworker on their pregnancy. Side note, my ex, our coworker, were all supervisors at the same company. How sister reports to our coworker. They're all on first shift, I am on second shift. I 28 Asian female found out that my boyfriend 31 Hispanic male of 3 years cheated on me with one of our coworkers and his sister had a part in it. Last week on Friday, I was at work at my desk when my very nosy lead came up to me whispering and asking if I was okay. I was confused. She then pulled up her phone and asked if I had broken up with my now ex-boyfriend because she screenshotted an Instagram post that was made over the weekend by one of my coworkers, the person he cheated with. I do not have social media, so I told my nosy lead to show it to me, and there it was, a picture of my coworker kissing my now ex-boyfriend for the world to see. On Saturday, I told him we needed to talk, so I went over to his house. On my way there, the same nosy lead sent me a screenshot of a post that was made by my coworker saying she was about 2 months pregnant. I called and asked him to explain himself while I was nearing his house, and he just stayed quiet. He refused to come out or see me when I arrived at the house, so we basically talked through the phone for the time I was there. After I sent him the pictures of the screenshot not telling him who sent it, he finally said things happened and he got close to our coworker after his sister started inviting her to the house, then confessed that he started dating her 2 months ago, the day before his mom's 50th birthday, which he invited her to, but told his sister to tell me that she was the one that invited the coworker. He also told her to dress in gold, his favorite color, when the theme was hot pink, to which everyone was wearing but her. On the day of his mom's birthday he spent the whole night drinking, talking and dancing with his sister and our coworker because they claimed they didn't want her to feel left out while I was with the rest of his family. His cousin invited me to dance since my ex was dancing with our coworker, when suddenly my ex pulled me to the side and was upset that I was dancing with his cousin. I told him I should be the one that is upset with how he has been acting all night, but just didn't want to make a scene out of respect to his mom. I ended up saying bye to his mom and said I wasn't feeling too well, so I left. That was when the cheaters decided they were going to go upstairs and make a baby, on the night of his mom's 50th birthday while everyone was celebrating downstairs. The disrespect. Mind you, he told me all this over the phone. After some time, his sister came down and said he had asked me to go back home for the day. I yelled at her for helping her brother lie to me for the past 2 months. Her answer to me was that she didn't feel like I was good enough for her brother because I didn't speak Spanish. And she liked my coworker because she was Hispanic and wanted her to date her brother, my now ex-boyfriend, so she set them up. After everything that I have done for them and her kids, helping her daughter get through speech therapy, watching her kids while she goes out to party, and helping their mom run errands. All this wasn't good enough because I needed to speak Spanish too. His mom came out to ask what was going on. I told her I came to say goodbye and that her son was a dog and a POS and he can do the explaining to her, but that I was done. She cried, telling me not to go and that whatever he did to hurt me he would get back, so for me to stay. I told her he will get what he deserves, but I was done with her son. I remained professional's best as I can all week when the shifts overlapped at work. Even congratulated them on their pregnancy in front of everyone. He called me, to which I picked up, and asked, he wanted to know where he stands in our relationship so he can make a decision. And if I cannot make a scene or make things awkward at work for them. I responded, there is no place for him to stand when there is no relationship, and his decision was already made when he decided he wanted to sleep with another woman and impregnate her. I didn't make things awkward. What they did affected them, not me. This week, his sister ended up quitting after she got into an argument with another supervisor. Then Friday came back around today and I received some more good news. The company ended firing him because of a DUI, which he now has 2 DUIs. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA. I would have gone nuclear. You handled this in such a tame, contained way. Definitely NTA. Seriously though, OP, fuck this dude and his sister. I know you're hurting now, but they seem shady and self-absorbed that I believe you dodged a bullet here. Commenter 2. Sounds like the only good person in that crappy family is the mom. Commenter 3. Now that's what I call turning sugar into S at #%. They all got what they deserved and you are the last one standing. I love it. Sorry they treated you this way, but glad Lady Karma came around quickly. Update. Since my ex-boyfriend has been fired, my phone has been ringing non-stop with constant messages going off. I ended up blocking his number. At work, my coworker has reported me to HR for harassment. My manager, who has been on PTO for the past 2 weeks, talked to me about it throughout the past week and asked what happened. I told my manager I haven't done or said anything to my coworker except for congratulations on her pregnancy and hello, as a fellow coworker would. I told HR where the proof was that I was talking about her or making her uncomfortable and that they can go ask associates or other management members if I had said anything about her. Also, for them to go ask her to explain to them exactly why she felt I was harassing her, on what grounds. Apparently, associates and management have been talking about her pregnancy and how my ex-boyfriend cheated on me and is the baby daddy. She is saying that I told everyone about it. Pathetic. She needs to realize that the only reason everyone knows is because she purposefully posted it on Instagram for the world to see about her and my ex-boyfriend's scandalous relationship and also announcing her pregnancy. It has been confirmed by HR after asking management and associates that I have not said anything to my coworker but that day when everyone congratulated her on her pregnancy. Also, that I didn't say anything to anyone about my cheating ex-boyfriend and coworker but that everyone found out through her post on Instagram. They said they would talk to her and handle this situation, but for the time being, I was to keep a distance. Fine with me. I'm not sure how they will take care of this situation, but I'll wait and see what happens. Now, over the weekend, I went over to their house to get my stuff after confirming with his mom that he was not home. She agreed to help pack my stuff for me as well so I can just go in and out. She had the garage open and was finishing up packing stuff, so I went to help her finish. As we were finishing, he pulled up on the driveway, so I grabbed the last of what I could and told his mom I was leaving. I rushed to my car, but he stopped me and said he wanted to talk. There was nothing to talk about. His mom told him to let me leave. She walks over to pull him to the side but he brushes her off. He wouldn't let me leave until we talked. He kept saying to listen to him, he needed to talk to me. At this point I was just over it. I responded, "What is there to talk about? The day I came over here and asked you to explain to me what happened, you couldn't even come outside and tell me. Not even for a second did I see your face. I gave you a chance to come out and explain yourself, but you threw that chance away. You only spoke with me over the phone and not once did you even apologize for having cheated on me. You couldn't even come out to face me, so you sent your sister to tell me to leave, and that already explains what you are not. You're not a man, you can't even own up to your wrongdoing. Now that you want to talk, I don't have to listen since there is nothing between the two of us." I pushed past him and placed the box in my trunk and went to get in the driver's seat. He was still insisting that I talk to him. He then said he was sorry, he didn't know what he was thinking, it was all a mistake and that he still loves me and that he wouldn't be with her if she wasn't pregnant. His mom told him, "Cheating is not a mistake. You did it because you wanted to do it. Your love was not sincere, you wanted someone else. You did the act, so now you suffer the consequences." I told him, even if she wasn't pregnant, you still cheated. For that alone, I will still leave. She pulled him away and waved me off as I left. Since I have his number blocked, he was using his mom's phone to call me, but I hung up once I heard it was him. She then sent me a text message to block her number. Honestly, I feel horrible that his mom had to witness all this. She was such a lovely person. She cared for me as if I was her daughter. I really do wish the best for her and her grandkids, but may my ex-boyfriend, his sister and my coworker get all the karma they deserve. Comments. Commenter 1. They already have their karma and it's each other. Sorry for the mom though, but also congratulations on your healing journey. Commenter 2. Those two are going to make each other miserable. He is always going to feel she trapped him and she is always going to know he is only with her for the baby. I'm so glad his mom set him straight. I don't think AP is going to win any points with her. Stories number 2. My husband's childhood best friend asked me for a favor, then humiliated me in front of her family. I'm done being the bigger person. I've been sitting on this for a few days, trying to decide if I'm just being dramatic or if I've been letting too much slide for too long. So, I 30F have been happily married for a few years now. My husband 31M is honestly a gem, kind, patient, hilarious, loyal. Basically everything you'd want. Which, after having an ex cheat on me with his best friend, is kind of a big deal. That relationship wrecked me for a while, but I worked hard not to drag the wreckage into something new. And my husband? And thankfully, my husband's never given me a single reason to question him. Until now. Maybe. I do not know. My husband and I have a great relationship, and we're pretty social and often hang out with each other's friends. I get along with almost all of his group, and they've honestly made me feel welcome, except for her. His childhood best friend. Let's call her Claire. Claire has always been cold to me. Not outright rude, just subtle enough to make me feel crazy for noticing. You know that kind of vibe? Every time we've been in the same room, she's managed to talk around me, not to me. I tried. I really did. I've smiled. Made conversation. Been nothing but warm, even when she's given me nothing to work with. She doesn't show up to group hangouts. But she'll invite him over. And he always tells me, to his credit. He never goes without mentioning it, and he's never weird or secretive about her. But it still rubs me the wrong way. I've tried being friendly, I've tried small talk, hell. I invited her to our birthdays, barbecues, engagement dinner, she bailed on all. She skipped our wedding too. And she only ever seems to reach out to him, usually when she's just been dumped and needs to talk. When I've brought it up, my husband says I'm overthinking it. That Claire is just a little odd socially. Maybe she is. Then, a few weeks ago, out of nowhere, she messaged me. She asked if I'd model for her project. Totally unexpected. And I was caught off guard enough to say yes. Part of me thought, maybe this is her trying to connect. Maybe this was her olive branch. I even felt a little hopeful. God, I was naive, so I agreed. My husband offered to come with me since he hadn't seen her in a while and thought it'd be fun to catch up after. When we got there, her family was also involved. And from the second I walked in, it was like stepping into some passive-aggressive twilight zone. Her mom and sister kept calling my husband our son-in-law. I laugh, awkwardly. Think I must have misheard. It only got worse. During the shoot, came more of the snarky comments. Jokes about the one that got away and some bonds never fade. Her mom, at one point, literally said, we always thought Claire would end up with him. But life has its detours, I guess. Claire always imagined walking down the aisle with him. And then, it's sweet of her to fill in, though. Oh come on. I wish I was exaggerating. And Claire just kept snapping pictures. Smiling. Saying nothing. No, hey, cut it out, no awkward laugh, no redirect. Nothing. My husband. Clearly uncomfortable. I watched him fidget through the whole thing, clear his throat a few times. He tried to change the subject or came near by me during the shooting. He didn't say much either. Just went kind of quiet. I stuck it out for an hour. Let her take her photos. Smiled, posed, whatever. But the whole time I felt like I was part of a social experiment, and everyone else was in on the joke but me. When we got in the car, he was silent for a while. Then finally said, sorry about all. That was weird, right? And honestly, I didn't even know what to say. Because yeah, it was weird. It was borderline disrespectful. And the fact that he was there, saw all of it, clearly felt it too, and still didn't step in or pull the plug. It makes me feel kind of alone in this. I'm just tired. Tired of pretending this woman is harmless or just awkward. She knows exactly what she's doing. Two don't want to start a huge fight. But I'm at the point where I don't want her in our lives. Not as a friend. Not as a ghost in the corner of our marriage. No more bending over backwards to be the cool wife. I'm not interested in earning points with someone who clearly doesn't want me around. Anyway. Thanks for letting me scream into the void for a minute. I really needed to get this out. Edit. Sorry guys, English is not my first or even second language, sometimes it is harder to get my feelings across. Just to clarify a few things people were asking about, Claire is actually a photography major, and this shoot was part of her final project. I'm not a professional model or anything, but I've done some hobby modeling here and there, so when she asked if I'd help out, I thought it was a casual favor. Why at her house? She comes from a wealthy family and has a fully set up photo studio in their house, which is why the shoot happened there instead of at a regular studio. I honestly thought it'd just be her and the camera, not a full audience with drinks and commentary. Additional background, I grew up in a pretty emotionally abusive household, so I think I've gotten too used to passive-aggressive comments and just sort of freeze up. Maybe that's why I didn't react more in the moment, but yeah, it definitely hit harder after the fact. I will update you as soon as possible. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Borderline disrespectful. I'd hate to see what you think is actually disrespectful. Reply. Wow, reading your comment and honestly so many others, has really helped me see just how not okay that whole situation was. Think I was so used to brushing off this kind of behavior that I didn't even realize how deeply disrespected I was. I grew up in an emotionally abusive household, where snide comments and passive aggression were just part of the background noise. So when someone pulls that kind of crap now, I think a part of me automatically minimizes it like, oh, I've heard worse, but reading all your reactions kind of snapped me out of that. And yeah, it hurts that my husband didn't shut it down. I've been trying to rationalize it in my head like maybe he didn't want to escalate things because it felt like a trap. Or that he is not used to being in these kind of situations. Commenter 2, gotta be honest. The whole modeling session photography stuff sounds 100% unbelievable. That doesn't even make sense, at all. Are you a model? Is she a photographer? Why a photo shoot in their home? Why all the family members there? That's not how photo shoots work, really. Reply, yeah, honestly, I get why it sounds off. I probably would have side-eyed the whole thing too if I wasn't living it in real time. So no, I'm not a professional model. She just needed someone for a thesis project, and I've done a little hobby modeling here and there, so I figured it was casual enough to help out. I guess she didn't want to go through the trouble of hiring someone last min. As for the location, Claire comes from money. Like, money. They'd converted part of their house into a kind of makeshift studio for her to work in lighting, backdrops, the whole deal. So that's where we did it, which I didn't think was too weird, until I got there and her whole family was hanging around like it was dinner theater. Drinking wine, making snide comments, just watching. It was honestly awkward as hell. I definitely wasn't expecting that. I thought it'd just be her and a camera, not a whole audience and running commentary. Update: my husband's childhood best friend Claire has never liked me. She skipped all invitations but invites my husband alone, avoids me in person, and still found little ways to insert herself into his life. The final straw. She asked me to model for her final photography project. I showed up thinking maybe it was a fresh start. Nope. Instead, I got publicly mocked by her family, who joked out loud that she should have been the one marrying my husband. First off, holy crap. I did not expect that post to blow up like it did. Thank you to everyone who commented, messaged, or just made me feel like I wasn't losing my mind. So many of you asked for an update. And here it is. For those wondering, no, they never dated. He had a high school crush on her over a decade ago. That's ancient history. No, I don't think he's ever cheated, emotionally or physically. He's always very open and honest. We have each other's passwords. They barely see each other anymore in person, maybe once every few months. We live about 2 hours away. Okay. So here's the update. Funny enough, I didn't even get the chance to sit down and talk to my husband before something else happened. I just can't believe my life at the moment. Anyway, I was still trying to process what happened and sort through my anger towards Claire, and honestly, toward my husband too. That's when I got a message from my sister-in-law, we'll call her Madeline. I'm really close with Madeline. She's also part of the wider social circle that Claire floats around in. They're friendly but not close. She sent me a screen recording from Claire's close friend's story with a simple, WTF. It was a clip of me posing during the shoot, no music. But in the background, you can clearly hear Claire's sister say, Claire should have been the one to marry him. I lost it. I waited until my husband got home from work, sat him down, and showed him the video. He watched it once, then again. His whole face changed, he finally looked pissed. I could not help but think why didn't he have the same reaction there, so I laid it all out. I told him everything. Every snide comment, every time Claire made me feel small. How I'd always tried to be civil. How I never asked him to choose between us. But I was done being polite while someone consistently disrespected me. I told him, if this doesn't bother you enough to act, we've got a bigger problem. I'm not going to be in a marriage where I have to beg to be defended. I need a partner who stands up for me. And if that's not you, then I need to rethink this. He didn't argue. Didn't get defensive, and I know he feels sorry. Then I showed him the Reddit post. He tried to read every comment. Some of them made him tear up. When he finished, he looked at me and said that he feels like the worst husband. He let this happen right in front of him. He is so sorry. And asked me, what do you need from me now? I told him straight up, this isn't just about her anymore. It's about whether or not you're willing to protect this marriage. But I'm not going to feel like I'm second place in my own relationship. So it's either me or her. So we called Claire. She picked up all cheerful, acting like nothing had happened. We brought up the video. She immediately got defensive. Oh come on, it was just a joke. Are you really mad over that, seriously? And that's when he stepped in. This isn't just about the video. It's the constant disrespect toward my wife. I didn't say anything before because I didn't want to lose your friendship, and I convinced myself you didn't mean it. But what happened at that shoot? That was disgusting. My wife came to support you, and you and your family treated her like a joke. I didn't speak up then and I'm ashamed of that. But that ends now. I don't even know why I held on to this friendship for so long. If you can't respect my wife, you don't respect me. She laughed, literally laughed. Wow, you're really cutting me off over that girl. OMG, I was ready to fight. But husband calmed me down, said to Claire, if choosing between you and my wife ever felt like a hard decision, I wouldn't deserve her. We're not kids anymore, you need to grow up. I simply do not want to be your friend anymore. I have nothing else to say. Telling you he can be a gem sometimes. But yeah, we blocked her and her entire family. Since then, he's been checking in with me. Not trying to fix things. Just showing up. Listening, understanding. He finally sees what I've been dealing with. We've still got some healing to do. But now I know where he stands. And that changes everything for me. To everyone who commented last time, thank you. Seriously. You helped me feel like I wasn't crazy. And maybe even more importantly, you helped him finally see it too. New update. Hi again, I wasn't going to post a third time, but a bunch of people kept asking for an update, so I figured I'd just close this out. Also, oh my god. I honestly didn't expect my original post to get that much attention. I wrote it when I was angry and exhausted and needed to vent. I thought maybe like 5 people would see it and I'd feel slightly less crazy. Instead it kind of exploded. My husband actually read the second post too. Yeah. After seeing it all written out and reading the comments, which surprised him that people were still curious. But maybe that was a good thing. Anyway, the update itself isn't dramatic. After that last call, we blocked Claire and her whole family. And that was it. No follow-up, no weird texts, no fake apology, nothing. Just silence. And honestly, that silence was kind of the best thing she ever gave me. My husband's been great. Not doing too much or trying to overcompensate, just steady. He finally sees how much I was putting up with. He's been more protective in a real way, not just in words. He owns how passive he was before. It doesn't feel like we've been trying to move on, it just feels like we're on the same page now. I think the biggest shift is internal. I'm not second-guessing myself as much. I'm not trying to win people over who've already decided not to see me. I feel a lot more grounded, and it's because I finally spoke up instead of brushing things off. So yeah. Not much drama, but a lot of clarity, thanks to everyone who commented or messaged or just listened. I'm probably going to delete this account soon, but this thread honestly helped more than I can explain. For anyone else dealing with subtle disrespect that makes you question your own gut. You're deaf, not imagining it. You're not being dramatic. You don't have to keep being the bigger person just to stay nice. Anyway, that's it. Thanks again. Stories number 3. I 27F found out my boyfriend 33M is not divorced or childless when I told him I was pregnant. I'm a mess and on mobile, so I'm sorry if this makes no sense. My boyfriend of almost 2 years has essentially been living a double life. I'm baffled as to how he pulled this off. When we met, he told me he was on the tail end of a nasty lengthy divorce, but that he had moved on and it would never pose an issue, and until now he was right, it never has. Last week I took a pregnancy test that came back positive, and yesterday morning I had a OBGYN visit to confirm. I was honestly ecstatic. I've always wanted to be a mom and my boyfriend felt the same. We talked about our future children many times even though we haven't been together for the longest time. I was really excited to tell him that night when he came over for dinner, but his reaction was weird. His face went pale and he looked confused, not what I expected at all, and he got up to go to the bathroom. When he came back he was really calm and really serious, and he told me that he was really afraid and didn't know how me and our baby would factor into his life, and he made the decision to come clean. Not only is he nowhere near being divorced from his wife, who he's been with for close to a decade, but they have 2 kids together, 4 and 6. I have no idea how. I never had even a clue. He works a lot and really early, which is the reason he would rarely spend nights over. That being said, it's not like he hardly spent any time with me. I'm heartbroken and confused, and his confession left me with absolutely no idea what to do. I'm still pregnant, with his 3rd child, and he's still very much married. He left right after that conversation, and I've called and texted but the only response I've gotten is that he'll speak to me tomorrow night after work. His demeanor is so cold and unfamiliar that I'm terrified he's going to leave me to figure out this pregnancy on my own. Another part of me doesn't want him anymore. If he's this good of a liar, what else has he lied about? What else could he lie about? I also would hate to break up a family like this. I feel disgusted in this whole situation. I've never felt more alone and confused. Should I be preemptive and leave him, or are there other ways I could go about this? Update: I think it's clear that I need to leave him, but that's about all that's clear for me right now. I want to be a mom, but these are the worst circumstances for that I can imagine. I'm trying to think of ways to contact his wife and can't think of any. I do believe I was at the house where they once lived at one point, but he has moved since then allegedly, so I have no idea what the new address is. I can't seem to piece this together at all. I don't understand how I was fooled for so long. I think I'm still in shock. To recap, I am leaving. I'm not sure if I want to abort, and as much as I want to tell his wife, I have no way of doing that. I guess I'll wait until he speaks with me tomorrow. Thank you guys. If you'd like updates, I'll keep posting. Update 2, I found his wife through a website someone sent me. He wasn't lying when he said he had no social media, but she does. Seeing the pictures of them made me realize I cannot keep our child. His family is beautiful and it breaks my heart to know he could do this to them. I cannot have the father of my child be someone like him. I still have no idea how to tell his wife. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, you didn't break up his family. He did that himself. Commenter 2, she would be doing his wife a favor. Commenter 3, oh, my heart breaks for you. You absolutely need to leave. You will never trust him. Ever. Decide if you want to keep this baby as a single mom. He will have to provide you child support most likely. Yes, he will have to tell his wife, and if she's smart, she will also leave. She has a right to know. Please remember, you did not destroy his family. He did that. He alone did that. You have a ton of emotions right now and I don't blame you for being confused, but please, walk away. Who close to you can you confide in? This is also an epic betrayal and I advise you to see a therapist as you navigate the next year. Commenter 4, please tell someone in your life that you are meeting with him tomorrow or meet in public just to be safe. Men have hurt women for far less reasons. Commenter 5, he's going to leave you. You were just the side piece to a very immoral and selfish man. Do not expect him to do anything decent to anyone. Not to you, not his wife, and not his other children. This pregnancy with his side piece is not going to change him into a good person. End your relationship with him and decide what you are going to do about your pregnancy. If you are going to have a baby and be a mom, you will at some point have to inform his family so you can get child support. I suggest talking to a lawyer before you do anything because you could easily financially screw this up for your kid's future. If you are going to abort, then the question about telling his wife is a different beast. I personally would, because I think she needs to know the type of person she is so she can protect herself and in part for petty revenge. Update. So I wanted to get this up as soon as possible because honestly, I never want to think about this again. I met with my ex this morning instead of after work because I guess neither of us could wait any longer to end this nightmare. I can't tell what's true and what isn't. All I know is my life has been pretty much torn to shreds. I went from confirming my pregnancy to this mess in basically no time at all. The last 24 hours have been the hardest of my life. Before I get into the conversation I had with my ex, I wanted to clear up a couple points that people kept bringing up. Yes, I've been to his house. I'll explain the quotations better. We both work a lot, and I never really minded never spending much time at his place. His story was that after his divorce, he was left with the house to himself and he got some roommates. He was kinda touchy about the subject, but we talked about it once and it had to do with feeling weird about having roommates in his 30s. He was allegedly in the process of selling the joke after his roommates left, so we stopped going there often since it was semi-packed up. Made enough sense to me, and since I live alone I always preferred him being at my place anyway. So no, I didn't spend 2 years not knowing where my boyfriend lived. I spent a year and 7 months simply spending more time at my place together. The second point is how I got pregnant in the first place. We didn't plan for a baby, we didn't try for a baby. We simply decided that if it happened, it happened. He had this whole mentality about living in the moment and happy accidents and such, supposedly due to how his marriage ended. So, I stopped using birth control and he would sometimes not use condoms. Come on guys, accidental pregnancies happen all the time. The last point is about my decision to terminate this pregnancy. I don't care about anyone else's stance on abortion, this is my life and my choice. For reasons that'll become clearer when I get to how my conversation with my ex went, this is the most painful and confusing thing I've ever dealt with. Yes, I'd love to be a mother, but I'm in no rush. I know things rarely turn out as planned, but this is a terrible environment to bring a child into, and I'm not subjecting my child to the emotional turmoil I'm currently going through. I cannot have a healthy pregnancy with the state of mind I'm in right now, and I'd rather put this behind me and wait to raise a child with someone who truly loves me so they can have the life they deserve. It'd be selfish to have the baby just because it's what I want. I have to think about what's best for my future child, and this is not it. Since this all happened so quickly, it's literally been a day since the bomb dropped. I'll take some more time to think about it, but I think my stance is firm. Now on to what you all came for. I spoke to my ex first over the phone, and later outside of a coffee shop. I took y'all's advice to not be with him alone. I have no idea if any of what he told me was true, but I plan on never speaking to him again, so it's the closest to the truth I'll ever get. His demeanor was very odd. He looked almost close to tears, but his tone and what he was saying was cold and emotionless and almost like he was debriefing me and not apologizing. Here is his story. His wife and him got married 10 years ago when she got pregnant. She was 18 at the time and her family is very Christian, so they married while she was pregnant and she eventually lost the child. Since then, he's felt trapped in his marriage but couldn't bring himself to leave, as he describes his wife as a very sweet, innocent, and fragile person with very strong views on marriage and very high hopes for the relationship. After having their 2 kids, she became very focused on them and he started to stray from his marriage at this point. He claims that it wasn't until he met me that he realized just how dead his marriage was. Being the coward he is, instead of leaving his wife, he decided to just start another life with me, completely separately. This is where his lies started to get messy. He does have a job, but it turns out he works from home, so that's where he was when he was at the office. His co-workers/work friends I met are kind of like partners, but they're all independent and don't see each other too much, which is why he was okay introducing them to me. They had no idea about his wife. In hindsight, I was very stupid to never think about meeting more of his friends, but neither of us are extremely social. While with me, he would tell his wife that he was out with clients, running errands, or on business trips, all things he did legitimately have to do for his job. The house I visited wasn't his, which is why there was no sign of children. It's his brother's house. He works out of town a lot, so when I'd be over would be when my ex was house sitting. His story about moving in with roommates after his divorce. That's actually what happened to his brother. It was his brother that was in the process of selling his house after his roommates left, not him. So it turns out he does have family nearby. It gets more complicated, too much to type out, but his web of lies is very detailed, very well thought out, and unfortunately for everyone but him very well executed, somewhat through sheer dumb luck, but I'm 1000% sure he's had practice living a double life. This could all be lies, but this next part is the strangest to me. He claims that when we had the conversation to stop birth control and have kids, he had a different conversation with himself. He decided he was happier with me, and if a baby came along, that's when he would cut things off with his wife. But that makes no sense. Would he be cutting off his children too? Was he planning on ever telling me? He said that when that moment came and he found out I am pregnant, he felt unexpected panic and reconsidered his life, and decided he couldn't leave his family. I guess that explains the confusion on his face when I told him. He then came to the conclusion that the best course of action would be to end things with me and ask me to get an abortion, and we'd be on our merry ways and he could go back to his normal life. He still thinks I have no way of knowing who his wife is and have no way of contacting her. Nope. Though he doesn't need to worry about having a third kid, I cannot in good conscience let this man continue to lie to his wife, who sounds completely clueless. I took the advice of one of you and recorded the conversation on my phone. It's a garbage recording, but there's just enough that's audible to keep as evidence. I'm going to spend some time compiling all I have and thinking of ways I could help her out of her disaster of a marriage, and then I will contact her. The reason I want to help is because I feel I am playing a part in the ending of her marriage and I feel obligated to help if she'll allow me. I did not give him any indication that I'd be doing this. I told him I just wanted to never see him again and leave this in the past, which is true, but I want his wife to make the same decision. I'm sorry for the novel of an update. Thank you everyone for your love and support. I missed so many red flags, about his friends, his family, his home, everything, but I was blindly in love and hindsight is 20/20ths. So much of this still doesn't make sense and never will, and a part of me believes that his explanations and confessions are fabricated and the truth is a lot messier, but I'll never know, so I can't hold on to that. I'm considering moving to put this all behind me. Again, I want to thank you guys so much for your input and guidance, my brain is still such a mess and it'll take a long time to heal, but you guys have helped me go towards the right direction. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I'm so sorry you're going through this. I definitely agree that this is not the way to bring a child into the world. Your kid will eventually want to know about his father, and that will turn into a whole other can of worms that you probably don't want to have to deal with. However you decide to reach out to the wife, make sure you're approaching it with empathy and not anger. Her 10-year marriage has been a lie and I can't even imagine what it'll be like for her. Good luck, OP. Commenter 2. Thanks for the update. This guy is an absolute coward, liar, and a complete loser. Commenter 3. I'm so sorry you're going through this. Don't kid yourself that she's going to want your help though. Odds are she will partly blame you for everything he's done and will want nothing to do with you. She may even decide to stay with him, even after knowing everything. You said she is from a Christian background and they often put forgiveness above everything and stay married for the sake of the children, no matter how angry and unhappy they are. So don't be surprised if she blows up on you and defends him. Commenter 4. I'm 100% with you on all your choices, but saying you didn't plan for a baby and it was an accident, while simultaneously saying I didn't use birth control and he didn't use a condom is the dumbest thing I've read today. It's called NTNP, not trying, not preventing, and can be considered a method of trying to conceive. Final update. First, I'd like to address that the pregnancy was not unexpected but not explicitly planned. Accidental was not the right word, but I'm aware of how babies are made. I was in a sense trying to get pregnant, but only because my ex lied to me and convinced me he was on board. I'm not gonna sit here and explain the ins and outs of how I was duped. I was stupid and missed some flags, but I absolutely planned on bringing a child into what I expected would be a healthy, safe, loving environment. That environment is not real. I am not ready to be a mother under the current circumstances. I am not mentally or emotionally fit to carry out a pregnancy, and I am most definitely not going to put a child through the adoption system. It is just not a guarantee of a good life and I can't in good conscience do that. For those and other reasons I've explained before, I have begun the process of getting an abortion. I collected photographs, videos, screenshots of texts, and everything I could find as evidence to show my ex's wife. I tried to find texts in which he referenced being divorced or just any lies to prove that I'm not at fault, but I heeded y'all's warnings to not try and help her or push her too far since I don't know how she'd receive these news. I simply found her on social media, sent her all the pictures and screenshots, and a short rundown of what her husband's been doing for 2 years. It took a day for her to respond, but all she said was, "Thank you," and once I saw that, I blocked her. I have not heard from anyone and I hope to never have to hear or think about this situation again. It's behind me. I have no idea what happened with my ex and his wife, and I probably never will. Thank you guys for your support. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. One of the hardest lessons of my life was learning that if someone is damned and determined to lie to you, it is hard to detect. And what a punch to the gut when the truth comes out. Ugh. This is a risk we run when we deal with people, but just like having a car wreck is unfortunate, it doesn't keep us from driving or using cars. We take reasonable precautions and just keep on because the benefits outweigh the risks, just as they do in relationships. Best of luck, OP. P.S. Thank you for sending the info to the wife. That was the kindest, best thing to do. I was the wife. I wish someone would have done that for me. Commenter 2. You've handled this in prob the best way possible given the circumstance. Props, baby girl. Good luck in future relationships. Commenter 3. Hope the best for you. I don't know if ILD have blocked her, but it's because of curiosity to see if she has something else to tell, but I think you did the best to continue and begin your new life. Stay strong and good luck. Stories number 4. Aita for wanting nothing to do with my kids and ex-wife after 2 years of false allegations. Hold on because this is a doozy. I'm going to omit some details to help keep myself from getting doxxed about this whole thing. Last year my kids 9F and 7M ran away late at night/early in the morning. When found by some city officials, they claimed I kicked them out of the house. I woke up the morning of to the cops and CPS knocking on the door. I told my side of the story from what I knew and they had my now ex-wife tell her side while keeping us separated. The cops claim our stories don't match and end up arresting me. I bail myself out that same day and go live with my parents for a while. I'm dealing with court, scared that I'm going back to jail or prison and that I'll lose my job that I had only been at for a year. A little over a month goes by and I get a phone call to have a meeting with the CPS woman in charge of our case. My daughter ended up making more allegations against me that did not make any sense to the CPS people, and when they asked her questions, she was unable to give them answers. My son ended up breaking first and admitting the whole thing was made up and that my daughter was the one to orchestrate everything. This reveal led to the charges being dropped and my daughter getting counseling and psychiatric help. For a while I thought things were good. We were on our way to fix things. I kept trying to get all of us into therapy, both individually and family. I was already in therapy due to this whole situation anyway. My ex kept dragging her feet and it never went anywhere. After some other situations with being displaced due to a natural disaster and me trying to get things packed up in our old apartment, I get told by my ex she wants a divorce, so now I'm having to rush and try to find a place to live, which I did luckily. I actually move in tomorrow. On the 14th of June I get served an emergency protection order by the county sheriff's office. I'm told it's because I allegedly hit my son and gave him a concussion while in the grocery store, where there are cameras. He had been taken to the emergency room by my ex on the 14th, but this event allegedly happened on the 10th. I had told my ex that due to me having to get this house to rent, along with utilities in my name, adding up to over $2,000, that I wasn't going to be able to pay certain bills this month, but that I'll get them caught up as soon as I can to get everything paid off and even. I signed for the deposit on the 11th and the kids had been with her while I did this paperwork and there was no issue. On the same morning I had taken my kids to the park so they could play and recorded videos of them being silly and having fun. I was talking to my therapist this week and I told her what was going on and how I felt about being around my ex or the children. It's 2 years in a row of false allegations. I want nothing to do with any of them now. I'll pay child support gladly. I had an agreement with my ex before this all happened of paying $1,000 a month, $500 per paycheck, for child support. After all of this, Aita for not wanting to be around the children and my ex after everything gets settled and found out to be lies again. Additional information from OOP. I posted this before I clocked in at work, so let me give some more details. My ex-wife and I were still together when the kids ran away last year. My side of the story during that was that I came home from work, talked with the kids and wife, gave the kids their melatonin gummies before sending them to bed, after which I took a shower before making me something for dinner and cleaning up afterwards. By this point my ex was asleep already, and so were the kids. When CPS and the mental health professionals were talking to my daughter after everything got cleared, she was saying the voices she was hearing were telling her to do things. The mental health professionals said this sounded too rehearsed to them. It later got revealed that she was watching videos on YouTube about kids pranking their parents and she wanted to try it out herself. She had access to YouTube due to tablets that my MIL had given the kids for Christmas back in 2023, which I disagreed with but I was ignored. At the time, and to this day, I do not believe my ex had a hand in the running away situation. On to this year, my son went to the ER on the 14th because he had, and I quote from the paperwork I was given, dizziness, lightheaded feeling, and a nosebleed. I am not sure how he received a concussion. Nothing is finished with this situation yet and nothing has been decided in terms of child support. We go back to court next month to revisit this after the investigation has finished. On the day I received the EPO I talked to a state trooper and told him the kids' history, showed the videos of my kids playing, and showed receipts on my banking app from when we were at Walmart and at what time we were there. As of right now I haven't heard anything else. I have already been interviewed by CPS and informed them of the same things I told the state trooper because it is a different person on this case as my ex and kids live in a different county at the moment. This time I firmly believe that my ex is behind this due to my telling her some of the bills would have to wait because I'm having to pay approximately $2,500 to move, put down deposits and pay first and last month rent. I haven't seen my kids since I dropped them off to my grandparents on the afternoon of the 11th. I have not made a decision about staying away from my kids, but I do plan on talking to a lawyer in the next couple of days and I'm looking into security for my house and a discrete body camera to wear like many other users have said. I'll try to answer any other questions that I can, but I move tomorrow and I have some last-minute things to pack up and place in my car and move downstairs. Thank you for all of your insights and words and thoughts and prayers, it means a whole lot to me that I can't put into words. Relevant comments. Are OOP's children his biological? Reply, well, considering they look like I just clicked copy and paste. Did something happen at the grocery store that caused the son to have a concussion? Reply, nothing happened at the grocery store is the thing. We went in, picked up some sweet tea and ramen, then left. Update, Aita for wanting nothing to do with my kids and ex-wife after 2 years of false allegations. So I have an update, along with answering some questions better from my previous post. When I first posted this I was not in a good headspace and I realized that I wasn't very clear. To be honest, I'm still not in a good headspace, but it's a little bit better. For starters, these false allegations started last year when my kids were 9 and 7. When I said 2 years I meant calendar years. When I said I spoke to the police about my side of the story last year, I meant what happened the night before the police and CPS showed up at the front door. I had gotten home, spent some time with the kids and my ex-then wife before giving the kids their melatonin gummies. This was done on an as-needed basis, mainly 2 to 3 times a week at most. After that I went and took a shower, made myself some dinner, then ate and cleaned up the kitchen before spending more time with my then wife before we both went to bed. Due to a contraction happening when she was being given the epidural, she sleeps better propped up, so she slept on the couch while myself and the kids slept upstairs. The next morning is when I woke up to the cops at the door with CPS. I was charged with child abandonment and arrested. It took over a month for the truth to come out about my kids making this up due to the fact my daughter was saying I was having sex with her. The CPS agent conducting the investigation tried to ask more details, and that's when my daughter started crying and admitted she made it up because she couldn't give details. The only reason my daughter even knew what sex was is because my ex and I were in the bedroom and we both thought the other locked the door and my daughter walked in on us. Moving to now, I don't know how my son got this supposed concussion. We had court again on Monday, the 21st, and when the judge asked her, she told him that, after talking with the state trooper, we have decided to not press criminal charges. I asked the judge if there was any evidence that they had about what they're claiming I did, and he told me that since no charges were filed, there's no evidence gathered to give to me. I want to thank everyone for their answers on my last post. Thinking about those feelings was making me sick to my stomach, and I just needed some perspectives from people who weren't emotionally involved. I thought about this since last month, and I made the decision to tell the judge I want the divorce process and this EPO to be over and done with, and that I just want to be left alone. I'm still questioning if this was the right decision or not. I'm just not sure what else I could do. I work 12-hour days 5 to 6 days a week. I have no way to take care of the kids, so I can't take them in. Even then, am I supposed to get to the point where the court system says supervised visits aren't needed anymore and just start wearing a body camera around the kids and just be scared all the time? Looking over my shoulder constantly just to make sure that I'm not going to end up in jail again. We have a hearing set up for December to hopefully get everything finalized and finished. I keep thinking about the kids going trick-or-treating in 3 months, going back to school next month, how we won't be decorating Christmas trees together or making cookies for Santa, and I start crying all over again. I'm not sure what else I could have done though that wouldn't have made me a paranoid mess 24/7. This will be the last update until December or January, I guess. Thank you again for everyone saying I wasn't an asshole for feeling this way. Have a good one, Reddit. Relevant comments. Did OOP's ex explain why she wanted the divorce? Reply, her words was that she just isn't in love with me anymore and we've both become too different. She's religious, I'm not. Both have different views on things that we can't come to an agreement on. After last year I wanted to get us into therapy and got some recommendations for marriage counselors and gave her the list and said that I'd be fine with whoever she chose so long as we worked on it. She never chose anyone and kept making excuses about why every time I asked. Commenter 1, your daughter lied about you or asterisk ping her, among many other allegations, and she says that she was motivated to behave the way that she did after she apparently watched a YouTube prank video. There is more to this story than your daughter is letting on. Either your ex-wife has coached your daughter well, or your daughter is incredibly manipulative at a very young age. Reply, everything I know I included. I'm dead certain there's stuff I don't know about like you said. Commenter 2, if you don't mind the question, in your previous post, you mentioned how you were arrested because the cops claimed you and your wife's stories didn't match. Did you find out why they weren't the same, and why your wife wasn't arrested as well? Sorry you're going through this OP. Reply, no I didn't. I have the police report, but all it says is, when asked if she believes he's capable of this, she answered, I don't know, I don't think so, I don't want to think about it. Did the daughter's tablet from Mael have parental controls? Reply, she apparently somehow found a way to get past it from what I know about it. Like I mentioned in a different comment, I told everything that I know about the situation from my end. OOP needs to get his kids in therapy, especially his daughter and himself. Reply, I agree about both, and luckily I'm in therapy already. I've been in therapy since August/September of last year. Stories number 5. Aita for telling my dad's wife she screwed her kid out of grandparents. So my 20th dad is with his affair partner Lara. He and Lara have a kid, Lucy 13F. Lucy was conceived after my dad and Lara were already together a while. Her birth wasn't the reason my parents split, in case anyone is wondering. But obviously my dad's family knew about the affair once my parents split, and they banned Lara from ever attending family events. To this day the only people on that side of the family that have met her are me and my one cousin who came to stay with me at my dad's for a few days one time. My grandparents told Dad they'd happily be active in Lucy's life, but it would have to be Dad that facilitated the relationship, meaning he'd have to bring her to see them alone. Lara said no. I guess she thought eventually she'd force herself into the family through Lucy, but all it did was mean no one ever met Lucy. My dad would take me to my grandparents' or aunt's place without Laura and Lucy, and that was just how it went. Well, it recently came up that my grandparents were giving me money towards buying an apartment when I graduate, which set Laura off. She's always been bitter that my grandparents financed my schooling but my dad paid for university. She was passive-aggressively grumbling at the dinner table that this is why she felt we could have asked them to pay for my university and that it would be nice if Lucy got to have grandparents, but some people are petty and cruel. I looked at my dad like, are we really playing that game? But he didn't say anything. Then Laura turns to Lucy and goes, you should know none of this is your fault, life isn't fair and you got the short end of the stick with certain family members. So I just said yeah, the short end of the stick family member is you, Laura. Lucy could have had the same relationship with my grandparents that I do, but you were so selfish that you screwed your own kid out of that. Laura argued that no one who hated her could have a relationship with her daughter, so I was like, well, what are you mad about then? That your principals ended up sabotaging your kid? Maybe that's on you. At this point my dad was giving me a death stare, so I just went back to my food. Laura sent me a text later that night about how much she didn't appreciate me saying that in front of her child and that it was her prerogative how she managed that relationship. She also said my dad's family are cruel and vindictive. I didn't reply, and honestly the only reason I don't have her blocked is in case my dad is taken ill suddenly. But now my dad is saying it's caused issues at home because Lucy is finally grasping that Laura is the one who wouldn't allow her to have a relationship with Dad's side and is now apparently pretty mad about it. He's saying the way I went at Laura was inappropriate in front of a child and that Lucy shouldn't have heard all that, but I think she only heard it because her mother was retconning reality. I didn't mean to cause an issue between Lucy and Laura, but honestly I do feel like Laura was asking for it by acting like an idiot in front of someone who knew the whole story. Edit, just to clarify, no, my dad's family didn't immediately forgive him. For a long time they only invited him to things if he brought me during his custody time. But time heals most things. They all still think he's a prick, but honestly I'm sure they thought that before. No, they haven't totally cut him out because we're just not that kind of family. But Laura was never family to start with, so it's way easier to never make her acquaintance than to cut out your blood relative that you've known for 40 years. I think that's fairly obvious. I am not mad that Laura set the boundary she did, and I'm not mad my parents got divorced. I got mad that Laura set a totally fair boundary that my dad went along with, not saying he's blameless, he's just not the one actively complaining and then tried to pretend that the consequences of said boundary shouldn't have happened. If you don't want your kid around people who don't like you, understandable, why are you whining that they're not around for your kid? Comments. Commenter 1. She brought it up in front of Lucy first, you just told the truth. Years of lies caught up with her, and now that Lucy's old enough to see through things, it hit harder. You didn't ruin anything, her selfishness did. Commenter 2, NTA. I sincerely hope Lucy starts asking to go see them without her controlling, home-wrecking, selfish mom. ETA, obviously the dad has the most blame here for the affair and wrecking the family. I had no idea a quick response would raise an army of people thinking I'm a massive misogynist because I didn't include something so obvious. Laura is trying to use a relationship with her daughter as her way to legitimize the relationship and weasel her way into acceptance by her husband's family. That didn't work. She is actively screwing her daughter out of financial support because she's mad her plot didn't work. If Dad hadn't been so spineless, he would have told Laura that instead of letting his daughter think her bio-grandparents hate her and then hefting mad at OP when she dissolved the illusion. Commenter 3, NTA. She's 13 and it's better she knows her mom was the issue and not her child's self. I wouldn't be surprised if she starts asking you for hard truths going forward because her mom spins shit, so she's always the victim. I assume Lucy knows her mom was an affair partner initially. Can't imagine the fantasy her mom spun about them being destined, and nothing, not even a wedding ring, could stop their love. Face with rolling eyes. It sucks the rest of the family cut her loose to avoid her mother. She's innocent and too many kids end up ostracized with this kind of thing when they should have just saved the rage and freeze out for the actual guilty parties. Reply. I honestly couldn't answer this. I barely see Lucy and Laura. I presume she does. I remember I threatened to tell her when I was like 14, but I never did. But obviously she was way younger then. She probably knows now. Commenter 4. NTA, you told her the truth and she is now dealing with the fallout of her actions. Your grandparents are allowed to have a boundary about who they want at their house or around them. And your stepmom is allowed to not like it and keep her kid away from them. But she isn't allowed to rewrite reality to fit her narrative. Your dad is also a problem. He should have shut her down when she started talking about his parents in front of his children but didn't. You standing up for your grandparents when she is bad-mouthing them is understandable. I feel bad for your sister because of her mom. She doesn't know a lot of her family. Hopefully, her finally knowing why she doesn't know them, she will be able to talk her dad into taking her to see them without her mom. Reply: yeah, this is how I feel. I don't begrudge Laura her boundary. A lot of mothers have that boundary, I think. But it has to be a boundary and not an attempt at blackmail. They just took her at her word. Stories number 6. Aita for telling my in-laws to get a job. I've been stressed out lately and I think I blew up on them and was unnecessarily rude. Now that I'm calming down enough to think about it. Me and my husband both work. We have a 3-year-old. He works at an office job while I work from home while being a stay-at-home mom. So I keep the house together, cook dinner and work while keeping my toddler entertained. It's tough, but we're doing it and have a system. My job is flexible and as long as I get tasks done at the end of the week, they're happy. Some days I don't get to work all day and have to work into the night. Life got tough and I began to get behind on tasks, so we agreed to try out daycare once a week so that can be my one full work day, without being a mom or focusing on the house. Anyway, my in-laws keep making comments about it that piss me off. When I first mentioned it, they were shocked and said that we're spending a lot of money just for something I can do. After a few months, they started making comments like, oh, it's your break day. Or, you get to relax today. My 2 sister-in-laws are stay-at-home moms and I just can't find myself relating with them. They talk often about how they get to nap during the day and how they do playdates and drink wine with other moms. They talk about all these shows they watch or TikTok trends. I don't ever have time for those unless I stay up after bedtime, but I'm usually too exhausted for that. I don't judge their lifestyle. In fact, I'm happy that they are able to do this and hope that once my husband finishes his schooling and we get to a good financial position, I can live like that too. I usually can ignore them, but last night we were over at a family gathering. My MIL and 2 SILs were talking and they mentioned how today would be my break day again. I laughed awkwardly and tried to change the subject, but my sister-in-law kept exclaiming that I'm so lucky and that she's envious that I get a break just to relax. I tried to mention that it's not much of a break with working, but my other in-laws chimed in and were talking about how they wished they could just leave their kids without a care. I don't know what happened, but I snapped. I stood up, told them that they should get a job to see how hard it really is, and walked away. My husband quickly packed us all up and we left. We agree that I overreacted, but I just wanted to see what other people think. I think I should apologize to them. Edit to add, my husband does just as much as I do, if not more. I get more sleep than he does. We just are trying not to get any debt and are investing in our future right now. I didn't mean to make it sound like he's slacking. Comments. Commenter 1. First and foremost, stop calling yourself a stay-at-home mom. You are not a stay-at-home mom. You are a working mom who manages her household while constantly multitasking. Commenter 2. Don't apologize. They are being petty at your expense. It's not a joke if it's laughing at your expense. Don't grovel. They already think they are better than you. Keep doing you. Be the best version of you for your family. Pay this no attention. Commenter 3. What are you apologizing for? Telling the truth. They've been purposely misrepresenting what you do every time they open their mouths. All you did was correct them. You didn't overreact. If anything, you've been underreacting, while allowing them to mistreat you. You simply met their aggression with something they understand. Good for you. And your husband agreed you overreacted. Well, he's just a peach, isn't he? Why hasn't he spoken up to defend you, to get his obnoxious sisters and mother in line, to tell these bullies that what they're doing is unacceptable? He's the one you need to speak to, and you're the one who is owed an apology, from every single one of them. Commenter 4. NTA, and your husband should be sticking up for you. Working while taking care of kids is not an easy task. It's not your fault your in-laws are kind of stupid. Stories number 7. Aita for not believing my husband when a woman showed up claiming she's pregnant with his baby. This has been messing with my head for a week and I need to get it out. My husband went to his best friend's bachelor party about 2 months ago. It was out of town, guys only weekend type deal. I knew they'd be drinking and there'd probably be women involved. He told me it was just strippers and I didn't love that, but I let it go. We've been married 4 years and I've never had a reason not to trust him. Last week this woman shows up at my work. Not even at our house, my work. She asks if I'm married to him and then tells me she's pregnant and thinks the baby is his. Said she met him at a party that weekend. Said he was drunk and they hooked up. She said she tried reaching him but he ignored her, so she found me. She wasn't yelling or crazy or anything. Just calm. Like she'd made peace with whatever happened. She told me she's not looking for anything from me or him yet. Just wants to make sure he knows, and asked if he'd be willing to take a test later on. I didn't even know what to say. I just stared at her. She gave me her number and left. That night I confronted him and he denied everything. Said he blacked out that night but swears nothing like that happened. Said the guys hired dancers and there was some touching but he didn't sleep with anyone. He swears it's not true. But if he blacked out, how would he even know? I told him he's going to take the test when the time comes. He agreed, but he's been acting like I betrayed him for even considering it could be true. Like I'm the one doing something wrong. My friends are split. Some think the whole thing sounds shady and she's probably just trying to pin it on someone. Others say if she went to me instead of blowing it up on social or acting wild, maybe she's telling the truth. I'm trying to keep my head on straight, but I feel like I'm losing it. Would I be the asshole for not standing by him right now when he says he didn't do it? I don't know who to believe anymore. Comments. Commenter 1. Prenatal paternity test. It's a simple blood draw. You can find out very quickly. Commenter 2. Call her, see what she remembers about him. Something only someone who's seen him naked might know. Good luck. Reply. This whole thing makes me sick to my stomach, but yeah, I might call her. I need something to feel real right now. Commenter 3. She's asking for a DNA test and says she doesn't want anything for now, so it sounds like she's not sure who the father is and it's a possibility he did have sex with her, whether he remembers it or not. Follow your gut and your heart, and then decide what you want to do once the DNA test happens. Stories number 8. Coworker told HR I was being exclusive for not inviting her to my wedding. This was honestly one of the weirdest work things I've ever dealt with. There's a woman in my office I'm friendly with, but not close to. We've had small talk here and there, nothing deep. No lunches together. No real outside of work connection. She found out I was getting married and asked when the wedding was. Then she straight up asked if she was invited. I kinda laughed and said, oh no, it's really small. Just close friends and family. I didn't think anything of it. She got quiet and a little cold after that, but I figured okay, maybe awkward moment, whatever. Fast forward a few days later, I get a meeting invite from HR. Turns out she filed a complaint saying I was being exclusive and creating a hostile environment by leaving people out because I didn't invite her to my wedding that I'm paying for. That isn't even work-related. So I had to sit in this HR meeting and explain that I'm not required to invite coworkers I barely know to my literal wedding. That it's a personal event. That it has nothing to do with work or who's in the office. HR honestly looked just as confused as I was. They basically said, yep, okay, thanks, and closed the case. But now she acts super passive-aggressive toward me. Like side eyes, little digs when I walk by. Still bringing it up in these weird sarcastic comments like, some people are so inclusive these days. I can't believe she actually thought HR could, make me invite her. Some people really do think they're the main character. Comments. Commenter 1. I would report her to HR for creating an uncomfortable environment now. Reply. Yeah, I didn't want to escalate at first, but the constant little digs are getting old fast. Commenter 2. That is one of the strangest things I've read. Your coworker is odd. Who thinks like that? What's next? Does she expect you to have her along on the honeymoon? Commenter 3. This is the type of guest that comes without a gift, eats a lot of food, makes others uncomfortable, takes home a shit load of leftovers and a centerpiece. Stories number 9. Aita for not letting my ex-husband and one of his future step-kids come inside. Our custody arrangement is for each of us to pick the kids up on our day during our 2-hour pickup window. He arrived at the house, and I already had the boys ready. I saw his car pull into the driveway on my camera, so the boys were already halfway to the door when my ex knocks. I open the door, and he is holding the hand of a 4-year-old. He asks to come in and says his fiance's son needs to use the bathroom. I told him I don't want him to come inside, because I don't feel comfortable with him in my house. He has a history of snooping through my things. He asked me to take his future stepson to the bathroom, and I said I was uncomfortable with the situation. He said his stepson needed to pee. I suggested the McDonald's up the road. He said my bathroom would be way cleaner than a McDonald's. At this point my 11-year-old started pestering his dad to stop so they could leave. My ex said, your brother needs to use the bathroom. My son said, I'll take him. My ex said, no, your mother would rather he pee his pants. We'll go, and hopefully we'll get to the McDonald's in time. My ex and the boys left. He messaged me afterwards saying I was cruel to a child to punish him and that's not okay. He said I made us both look bad in front of our kids and should be embarrassed of my actions. I have been fighting with him for so long my perspective is screwed up. Was I in the wrong? Comments. Commenter 1, NTA. He wanted to snoop. This was obvious after he rejected your son's offer to take the kid to the bathroom. Sneaky isn't he? Reply, always has been. He's an intelligent man. Commenter 2, okay, so I like to ask my husband these scenarios and get his 2 cents. He seems to think, because you have stated you've had multiple problems with the ex, that this was more about control. He wanted you to do what he said. Was the boy hurting and crying because he had to go? If not, my spouse thinks it was a power play by your ex. If it were me, I would have asked my son to take him and told the ex to go wait in his car, but if this douche just like to jerk you around then NTA. Reply, he was holding my ex's hand and kind of looking around. He didn't say anything. Commenter 3, your son did actually offer to take the kid to the bathroom and your ex declined. Sounds like a power play to me. You can remind that he is not welcome into your house unless it is life or limb, and he needs to organize himself properly before he arrives. Update, I did talk to my lawyer about what happened. He said we can address it at the hearing we already have scheduled about the movie situation. I thought that was that, but of course it was my turn to pick up the kids today. When I arrived at my ex's place he opened the door very wide and invited me in. I was suspicious and said no thank you. He kept insisting I come in so we can show the kids we are civil, but I had a bad feeling. I said I would just wait in the car for the boys to come out. I got in my car and texted my older son that I was there. A short while later he texted me back saying his dad said they couldn't leave unless I got them. I went back to the door and knocked again. Again, my ex invited me inside. I said I didn't want to come in, and that was when my boys showed up. My ex's fiancée was right behind them, telling them to come back upstairs. They ran to me, and we left. I don't know what his game is, but I'm not falling for it, whatever it is. Comments. Commenter 1, NTA. He was way too insistent for you to come in and then refusing to let your kids leave. No. Always follow your gut, especially when the spider is so persistent in inviting the fly into the parlor. Commenter 2, what's the movie situation? Reply, I had plans to take the boys to the movies, and he wanted me to not take them so he could take them during his custody time. I let them decide, and they wanted to go on opening day my custody time. I took them. He's saying I shouldn't be able to take them to a movie he specifically told me not to take them to. I think that only applies when it's a movie he doesn't want them to see at all, not one he is okay with them seeing but merely wants to take them to himself. Commenter 2, yeah my ex tries to give me orders too. Newsflash, I'm not your husband anymore. I don't give a shit if she has spaghetti or pizza twice and neither would the courts. You being neurotic about it is a you problem. Commenter 3, he has no right to tell you what to do, and what the kids go to watch when you have them. He's no longer your husband. He doesn't own the kids either. Please consider only talking with him over app, and only about essential things for kids. It's not essential for him to know what movies you see with your own children. Reply, our son told him we were going to watch the movie, not me. He was excited about it, so he told his dad. Commenter 4, I'm sure there is a good reason you left him, and not spending time with him was the desired outcome. Stories number 10, my girlfriend took her life after we broke up. Her family is now blaming me and spreading my information online. My girlfriend recently just took her life. This is by far the most devastating and traumatizing event I have experienced in my entire life. I've spent 5 weeks total in the hospital after 2 failed suicide attempts. My girlfriend was very physically and emotionally abusive. She has strangled, struck, and tried stabbing me many times. Whenever I would try to end the relationship, she would threaten to take her life and mine as well. I've called the police on her and contacted her family, in which she would just say she was kidding. She would later threaten me and have me not contact her family and police again because if I did, she would do something terrible. Anyways, her family has recently began posting my picture and information online. They have also created a narrative that I encouraged her to take her life and that I'm now hiding and fleeing from the police, which none of that is true. What can I honestly do in this situation? Top comments. Commenter 1, seems like they're openly spreading lies about you. Pretty sure that's illegal, you could call the police and explore your options I'd say. Commenter 2, talk to a lawyer, it sounds like grounds to sue for defamation, slander, and harassment. Commenter 3, get a lawyer ASAP, and a therapist to help you with your trauma. Remember that it's not your fault. You didn't kill her, she made the active decision to do that to herself. You might be blaming yourself saying that if you didn't break up with her none of this would have never happened. Well, I'm here to tell you, never feel bad for putting yourself first. She was abusive. Hang in there. Commenter 4, what they're doing is illegal. It's slander and they can actually be prosecuted for it. I would speak to a lawyer or go online and see what legal action you can take against them. Also, your partner was clearly extremely abusive. Nobody has to stay with anyone if they're unhappy with anyway, but certainly not when that person is abusing them. You had every right to end things. Nobody should have to risk their life every day by remaining with a violent, volatile person because they threaten to kill themselves. That's manipulation. She made a choice and it's sad that she didn't seek the help she so clearly needed. But that was her decision, not yours. I really hope you can get the help you need to navigate this. Good luck. Update: my girlfriend took her life after we broke up. Her family is now blaming me and spreading my information online. Hello, everyone. Nearly 2 years ago, my girlfriend tragically took her own life. It remains one of the most devastating, life-altering experiences I have ever endured. The pain and trauma from that event have rippled through every corner of my life, reshaping how I see myself, relationships, and the future. I'm just 23, but this experience has aged me far beyond my years. The emotional toll and the weight of everything I've been through have left their mark, inside and out. When I first shared parts of this story, I was overwhelmed, drowning in raw emotion, confusion, and chaos that clouded my ability to fully articulate what I was living through. It was rushed and incomplete. Now, with time, distance, and healing, I want to share a more honest and comprehensive account, not just to tell my truth, but to shed light on the complex reality of abusive relationships and grief. Our relationship was deeply complicated, painful, and at times frightening. She was physically and emotionally abusive toward me, behaviors that left scars I carry to this day. The abuse was often unpredictable, and I lived with threats and fear that made leaving feel nearly impossible. It's difficult to explain how emotional guilt and hope intertwine, how I clung to the memories of the good moments and believed, against evidence, that change was possible. But those signs, in hindsight, were warnings I wish I had recognized and acted on sooner. Throughout our time together, I reached out for help multiple times, calling the police, involving her family, in a desperate attempt to find safety and support. After her passing, her family attempted to pursue charges against me. However, after a thorough investigation, the police found no grounds for any legal action. The lead detective personally assured me that I had done nothing wrong and that there was no evidence to implicate me in any way. I fully cooperated with the authorities from the beginning. Despite these official findings, her family began spreading harmful and entirely false claims, including that I was fleeing from the police and on the run. This was a complete fabrication. I was never evading law enforcement. I remained present, accountable, and compliant through every step of the investigation. To protect myself and ensure the truth was represented, I hired a highly respected lawyer, someone with a strong legal reputation who has also served in Congress. Their guidance and advocacy helped me navigate the wave of public misinformation and personal attacks that followed. While the harassment has diminished over time, some of the false narratives still linger, continuing to cause pain. Since then, I've faced my own battles, most significantly, a suicide attempt that led to a 5-week hospital stay, followed by time in a psychiatric facility. It was one of the darkest and most vulnerable periods of my life. Recovery has been a long, slow process, often painful and exhausting. I now work full-time to manage the weight of mounting medical bills and rebuild some sense of stability. I plan to return to college in the fall of 2026, a step that represents both healing and hope for the future. Through it all, the unwavering support of my friends and family has been a lifeline, reminding me that I am not alone and that it's okay to ask for help. Healing is not linear. Some days are brighter than others, and I'm learning every day to be patient and gentle with myself as I rebuild my life from the fragments left behind. Loving someone who hurts you is confusing and painful. Holding on to the hope of who they could be, while facing the harsh reality of who they are, kept me trapped far longer than I ever imagined. That internal conflict is something I still wrestle with. I share this update to raise awareness about the brutal realities of abusive relationships. Leaving isn't a simple decision. Emotional guilt, fear, and hope can create invisible chains that keep people trapped. If you or someone you know is in this situation, please know you are not alone, and help is available. Please also remember, suicide is never the answer. No relationship, no matter how difficult, should end with loss of life. A healthy relationship requires emotional wellness. Your life is precious and worth fighting for. She wasn't a bad person. She was someone deeply struggling with pain and trauma of her own, a pain she couldn't, or wouldn't, face with help. That painful complexity shapes how I remember her, and I carry that with both sorrow and compassion every day. I loved her, and I still do. Forever and always. No matter how difficult things became, she'll always be number one in my heart. She will hold a special place there until the very day I die. If you're reading this and feel alone, overwhelmed, or stuck, please reach out. Talk to a trusted friend, family member, or professional. You don't have to carry this burden in silence. I hope by sharing my story, I can help others approach situations like this with empathy rather than judgment. We rarely see the full story behind someone's pain. I also kindly ask for respect and privacy as I continue to heal. This path is difficult, and compassion from others means more than criticism ever could. If you or someone you know is struggling with mental health or abuse, please consider connecting with a counselor, helpline, or support group. There is help available, and you are not alone. I'm open to answering questions or having honest conversations, whether in the comments or through direct message. If you're going through something or just need someone to listen, I'm here. Thank you from the bottom of my heart to everyone who has offered kindness, support, or simply taken the time to read this. Your compassion means more than words can say. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, I have a ton of posts that are kind of similar, but I lost my brother and blame my brother's girlfriend. Unlike your situation, where you tried to get her help, the girlfriend and her family they lived with them, knew my brother was in psychosis and suicidal and harming himself for a week before he killed himself. They told no one, did nothing. Did not try to help him at all. Just let him die. I write a post similar to yours every Monday day he died on my social media, hoping it'll help someone. If they are spreading misinformation about you, have them charged with harassment. Good luck. Reply, I'm really sorry for your loss. That kind of grief runs deep, especially when it's mixed with anger and the weight of knowing that the people who should have stepped up didn't. You and your brother deserved so much more. In my case, her family has gone out of their way to make me the scapegoat, and it's been incredibly painful. What they won't talk about is the fact that she was actually on suicide watch. Her own mother, a nurse, was the one responsible for watching her, and they still left her alone. After she died, they called me yelling, saying it was my fault because I had broken up with her. But later, they completely changed the story. They started spreading lies online, claiming I abused her and encouraged her to take her own life, even though by that point, I had already stepped away from the relationship. The truth is, I always took her seriously when she said she was suicidal. I called her family. I called the police. I tried again and again to get her help. But each time I did, she would lash out at me. She would tell me I was being overdramatic, that I was making things worse, and that she'd never actually go through with it. After a while, that started to change the way I reacted. Not because I stopped caring, but because I'm human. When someone repeatedly tells you they don't mean what they're saying, you start to believe them, even when part of you still worries. It became a situation where I was stuck between trying to help and being told I was hurting her by doing so. What her family will never understand is that she told me, in her own words, that I was the only reason she was still alive at times. I was the one person she felt cared. So now, to be blamed for her death by the very people who were supposed to be protecting her, it's heartbreaking. They needed someone to blame, and they chose me. I really appreciate you sharing your story. Posting every Monday in memory of your brother is such a meaningful way to honor him, and I'm sure it's helped more people than you realize. Thank you for your compassion and understanding. It means a lot. I'm doing my best to move forward with the truth and find peace. I hope you're able to find that too. You're not alone in this. Commenter 2, I'm so sorry you've had to go through this. There's nothing I could say that would make anything feel better, but just know you're not alone in this. For almost my entire 20s I dated someone who was suicidal for half of our 8-year relationship. It's not easy. The constant wondering if today will be the day. If you'll have to be the one to find them or tell their family. Not knowing how to proceed with your life, or tying up loose ends from theirs. It's maddening honestly. Truth be told, I feel like I stayed in the relationship early on out of fear that they would take their own life, and that's not fair to either of us. To feel like you're the one keeping someone on this earth is a burden nobody asked for, but we almost feel obligated to make it work. Again, I'm so sorry you have to navigate this difficult time in your life. It's not your fault. If a relationship is the only thread keeping them in this world, it's not your duty to remain. There are deeper mental health issues at play. Don't carry this with fault, or with regret, because this wasn't you. Good luck with everything, and I hope you're able to live a long and happy life without this haunting you, because you don't deserve to carry that. You're not a bad person. You're just a person doing what's best for them. Reply, thank you for this. It honestly means more than I can explain. I'm 23, and even though that's still young, going through something like this makes you feel like you've aged years overnight. It's the kind of pain and stress that's hard to talk about unless someone's actually lived it, and clearly, you have. What you said about constantly wondering if today would be the day, or if you'd be the one to find them or have to call their family, that hit me hard. I've had those exact thoughts more times than I can count. It's this quiet panic that becomes part of your daily life, and just like you, I stayed longer than I should have. I was scared that if I left, she'd follow through. It felt like if I let go, she would too. Unfortunately, she did let go after I broke off the relationship. It wasn't fair to either of us, but I felt like I had to hold on just to keep her alive. What makes it harder is that her family blamed me almost immediately after. They needed someone to blame, and I was the easiest target. That kind of guilt weighs on you, even when you know deep down that you did everything you could. Hearing you say it's not my fault really helps, more than you probably realize. You're right. If the only thing keeping someone here is a relationship, then there are deeper issues going on that love alone can't fix. I'm still learning to let go of that guilt and remind myself that I'm not a bad person for walking away when I couldn't carry it anymore. Thank you again for being open and kind. I hope you're finding peace too. Knowing that someone else understands this kind of pain makes me feel a little less alone in it. Commenter 3. If you are in the US and have evidence that the mother knew she was on suicide watch and left her alone, please report it to the state nursing board. I say this as a nurse. She has no business in healthcare if she can't be bothered to monitor a patient, especially her own daughter who is actively suicidal. Reply, I live in the US. The only indication that she was under suicide watch by her mother came from screenshots provided to the police before she passed away. In one of the messages, my ex-girlfriend told me, I can't leave the house. I'm on watch for trying to kill myself, after I asked if we could meet in person to talk about why I was considering ending the relationship. I went to school for nursing, so I have a strong understanding of the responsibilities and demands that come with the profession, and I truly respect those who dedicate themselves to it. That's why it stood out to me that my ex repeatedly described her mom as being lazy for a nurse, saying she intentionally chose to work as a school nurse because it required the least amount of effort compared to a hospital setting. What's also disturbing is that her mom later posted those screenshots online and twisted the narrative. It still confuses me how so few people have questioned how her daughter was able to take her own life while supposedly under her direct supervision. At one point, I considered taking steps to have her nursing license revoked, given the circumstances. But I ultimately decided against it. She has 9, maybe more. I don't remember other young children to take care of, and while I believe there was serious negligence, I also recognize that losing a daughter is already unimaginable, and stripping her of her license on top of that felt like adding salt to an already deep wound. Stories number 11. Entitled woman parked on my driveway and went to work. Looked out the window one morning to see a random woman parked on my driveway. For context, my parking spot fits 2 cars, but my partner usually parks there or my parents when they come over. The first day I thought I'd give her the benefit of the doubt as wasn't sure if she was mistaken. She looked up from scrolling on her phone to give me a filthy look as if to say, "Why are you staring at me?" and then made a gesture with her hand to say she's leaving. She sat for a further 5 minutes on her phone then left. The next morning, I see the car parked there again and she's nowhere to be seen. I left a note on her windscreen asking her not to park there. After a few hours of checking out the window to see if she's come back yet, she eventually arrives with a grin on her face. I ask if she works around the area and told her it's my driveway and she can't park there. To my surprise, she says, "I know it is, and I'm using it neutral face." I said, "You can't park there, I need it, it's my space." She said, "Well, I work around the corner and there's no parking, so I go here." I pointed to the various spots I could see and she said she won't park there again. She ripped up my note, threw it in the drain, and then proceeded to sit on the dropped curb giving me filthy looks before finally driving off. I'm not sure if she's going to come back, but I assume she will try to. I've been parking diagonally, stop her accessing it. Comments. Commenter 1. Can you have her car towed? Reply. I'm in the UK, so we're limited with what we can do. Unless you get a court order, it's unlikely to have them moved, unfortunately. Commenter 2. You are not responsible for any damages that may happen to her car. Just saying. Commenter 3. The best idea I've seen is the one that says to go talk with her employer. Stories number 12. My 31F husband, 33M, of 4 years has a weird relationship with his pregnant coworker, 23F. I'm not sure if I should be worried or not. My husband has worked with Kelsey for the last 2 years, and I never thought anything about their relationship was strange until now. For the past 5 months, the amount of time that has lapsed since my husband found out that Kelsey was pregnant, he has gone out of his way to support her in a way that makes me uncomfortable. I might be able to understand his actions if they weren't so extreme, but they mostly strike me as downright strange and out of character for him. For one, when he found out she was pregnant, he came to me and asked if he could give her $1,000 to help her with some of her expenses. He said that Kelsey's baby's father was out of the picture and she was struggling. I don't know Kelsey personally, but I can sympathize with her situation. I agreed to let him write her a check for $250. I did think this was odd, though, because my husband has never been all that charitable. I've never known him to be the type of person that goes out of his way to help a coworker or a stranger, but whatever. A few weeks later, my husband came to me and again asked me if we could help Kelsey out. This time he wanted to buy a pram for Kelsey. The one he had picked out was quite expensive, so I wasn't comfortable with just giving him the okay. We spent about a week discussing it before we finally agreed to purchase a cheaper one for her. This came after he asked her if the second one would be okay. I took this opportunity to ask him how much more money he wanted to spend on Kelsey and her baby. We had already spent $500 on them at this point, and I was starting to get concerned. We had a fight about this where he accused me of being selfish. He said that he was trying to do a good deed for someone and that he thought I would be happy to support a young mother-to-be like Kelsey and her baby. I did feel a little guilty afterwards, so I backed off. Fast forward to last week. I found out after the fact that my husband had bought a $150 gift card to Babies R Us for Kelsey as a Christmas present. We had another fight about how much money he's spending on her and her baby, and again he accused me of being stingy. I asked him how much more he planned to spend, and he told me that he didn't know. I asked him if he could see how this situation could make me uncomfortable and how it might lead me to think something was going on between them. He said that he was disappointed that I would think his good deed was anything other than him trying to help a coworker. He has been giving me the silent treatment since that fight and making passive-aggressive comments, which is frustrating. I can't get him to understand that my concerns are legitimate. Besides, it's not like we have the ability to keep spending this kind of money on Kelsey. In addition to spending money, my husband also has spent a lot of time helping Kelsey in other ways. He spent time fixing up things around her apartment before the baby comes and doing other odd jobs for her. All of this makes me extremely uncomfortable, but any time I bring it up he accuses me of trying to stop him from helping someone in need of assistance or being greedy. He won't acknowledge what I think is very worrisome behavior. At this point I wonder what I'm supposed to do. I think he really is trying to do a good deed, but part of me worries that something else is happening. I don't want to believe he would cheat on me. He's never given me a reason to suspect this, but I can't help but wonder sometimes, especially when he's gone with Kelsey to her OB/GYN appointment on 2 occasions, though he claimed it was because she needed a ride. Does he have a point? Am I being selfish for hassling him over helping Kelsey? How should I try to get him to understand his behavior is making me uncomfortable? I'm not sure how I should handle this situation. Nothing seems to be working. TLDR, husband has spent a lot of time and money helping his pregnant coworker. This makes me uncomfortable, but he says I am being greedy for trying to discourage him from doing a good deed. Am I worrying over nothing, or are my concerns justified? Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Sounds like she's pregnant with his child TBH. Reply. It does seem like that could be true. The only thing is he's never given me reason to suspect him of cheating. No late nights at work. No business trips. No other odd behavior. Commenter 2. I don't know how you haven't asked him if he's the father at this point. This is just really weird behavior. It'd be one thing if you guys had kids of your own and were done with babies, so he was just offering up anything you had in good condition that you would have otherwise donated, but he's taking a very, very active role in her pregnancy. And I don't know how you find out why, because he doesn't want to tell you. Reply. I asked him if anything was going on between them, but he basically denied it. I didn't ask him if he was the father because I think I'm scared that he might say yes. Update. Since many of you asked for an update, and you were kind enough to offer advice, I have decided to give one. The first thing I did after making my initial post was to confront my husband directly again. I asked him point blank if he was so involved with Kelsey's pregnancy because he was the father of her child. He denied it. I then asked him to introduce me to Kelsey since he had given her money that belonged to both of us. When I mentioned this, he got very defensive and accused me of being insecure. I responded by saying that I at least had a right to know the person I was helping and that he shouldn't have a problem with me meeting Kelsey if nothing was going on between them. He then told me that he wasn't going to introduce us and that I needed to work on my jealousy issues. I decided to contact Kelsey the next day. I found her, or at least the woman I thought was her, through a mutual friend's Facebook page. I sent her a message telling her who I was. I explained to her why I was concerned about her relationship with my husband and requested that she please let me know if she was having my husband's baby. She sent me a very nasty message back. I will spare you many of the details. The basic gist was that I was old and unattractive and unable to satisfy my husband, so he found someone better, i.e., Kelsey. Among other things, she claimed that the baby was my husband's and that he was planning to leave me but felt sorry for me and couldn't bring himself to do it. She ended the message by telling me that I should let him go so they could be together. It hurt a lot to read that message. It still hurts me to think about it. I confronted my husband that same night. I showed him the message. He got really quiet and admitted that she was telling the truth but denied telling her all of the horrible things she said about me. He said it getting her pregnant was a mistake and he was only trying to do the right thing by her and the baby. He denied that they were still sleeping together and said he wanted to stay with me and have a baby with me. I have no idea if either of these things are true. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. Everything has happened so fast. A couple of days have passed now, and I'm still thinking things over. He wants us to go to counseling to try to work through this, but I don't think I'm interested in working on our marriage. It would be hard for me to get past this if he had cheated, but the fact that he may be having a child with this woman makes it harder. If I stay with him, she's always going to be in our lives. I have thought about waiting until we can do a paternity test to make a final decision, but I don't know if I want to do that either. It may be easier if I just make the change now. I have started looking for divorce attorneys. Most of my family and friends have told me I need to get out of this marriage, and each day I get closer to making that move. I just need a bit more time before I'm ready to make a decision. TLDR, it's my husband's baby. He wants me back and to work on our marriage, but most likely we'll be getting divorced. Stories number 13. Aita for stopping paying my ex's bills. Alt account so I don't dox my main. My ex and I split up about 3 years ago. No bad feelings, we just drifted apart until we realized that we were now co-parents, not husband and wife anymore. We have 2 kids, 13 and 10. My ex used to work as an infrastructure engineer and I was working as an owner-driver with my own truck. At around the time the kids were born we decided she was going to be a stay-at-home mom. The trucking was going well and I had brought a second truck and a van, so I stayed home doing all the planning and admin, while I had the trucks and van out. When the smallest started school the ex went back to work part-time, but her time out of the workforce had hit her really hard and she needed to learn lots of stuff and basically she couldn't get back in at her previous level and had to pretty much start over. Over the years the haulage firm had expanded and frankly it was getting a bit of a pain in the arse. We were too big for where we were and were needing to move to a new yard, so I sold it off for a reasonable sum and set up freelancing as a dev. Did computer science at uni. We both had relatives pass away leaving us property and money. So we were mortgage free on the family home. When we split, I moved into a house that I had inherited. We basically split the assets in half, split the costs of the kids' activities in half. And when we were sat looking at the money, she concluded that she would need to go back to work full time and she would miss time with the kids, as they were with me the 3 days she was at work and every other weekend. I felt a bit bad for that, because if she hadn't been out of work for so long then she would be in a better place career-wise. So I offered to cover half of her bills until the kids went off to uni. She didn't want to at first, but I said to her that she helped me out and had now suffered as a result, so it was only fair that I returned the favor. It's helping my kids out, and I didn't want her to be running down the savings that was essentially the kids' inheritance. So this situation has worked out about as well as it can. We co-parent happily, everything is all good. Until she met a new guy. He's someone we knew from way back but we lost touch with. They started dating, she's really happy and she's talking about him moving in. Which I'm okay with. The kids get on with him and I trust her judgment and know that she wouldn't put anything ahead of the kids. So I said to her, if Lado is moving in you won't need the money towards the bills, will you? She said no she wouldn't, but she was thinking of putting it into the kids' accounts. Great idea, says me. I'll put some on their cards for pocket money and the rest in their savings. So that was what we agreed, but when new chap found out he went up the wall and accused me of being controlling and financial abuse. A few of our friends have also said that he's got a point and that it looks like jealousy. So Aita here. Update, edits and clarification, within same post. We have joint 50-50 custody of the kids, so I have no actual obligation to be paying anything, but that said, I don't want my kids to miss out on their many and varied activities, so I carry on paying for half of those. Likewise, I offered the extra money to help with bills because I wanted my kids to benefit from time with both parents and also to not have to live in a house where money is a worry. Some have mentioned when division of assets from inheritance and selling my business, these are mostly locked away in long-term investments so they aren't available. We were perhaps unwise in doing this, but we saw it as the kids' inheritance. My ex would rather have worked more than dipped into that money for living costs. The ex has been round for a cup of tea and a chat. It seems that Lado was indeed thinking that she was his meal ticket. Apparently he had suggested moving in but not told her that his landlord was ending his tenancy on a Section 21 to sell the property. When she started discussing money and his contribution, he asked why when I was paying for the kids. So she told him if he was living there he needed to chip in, and that if he moved in she couldn't keep asking for money from me. So she's upset and I think that's going to be over. In the meantime he's ranting to anyone that'll listen that I'm the typical evil jealous ex and controlling her with money. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. NTA, looks like he was interested in the free ride and now that the gravy train has stopped he's all upset. Your ex had no issues with the money stopping because she isn't interested in taking advantage of you, and two adults living together should be able to cover their own expenses, but new boyfriend doesn't want that. Commenter 2. NTA, tell anyone moaning that you pay child support for your children, not grown men looking for a free ride. He'll already be saving in rent as the house is paid for. Is he really looking for his bills and groceries to be paid for by you too? If someone moves into another's home, they contribute to living there. That said, contribute too, not pay half as your kids are eating the food and running up the utility bills. Commenter 3. Agree with you except for the last part. It seems the kids live with OP about half the time, so I do not see why he would have to pay for food utilities unless the ex-all-out pays for similar costs made at OP's house, which I assume she does not. Reply. Because my ex spent so long out of the workforce she basically had to start over at the bottom and it was a rough market post-COVID for network technicians. It was a choice of 3 days a week equals good balance of time with the kids but very tight budgets, watching every penny, no treats kind of thing versus 5 days a week, all that good stuff but not much time with the kids. So I offered to cover some of the bills so that she could stay part-time. And do you know what, as far as I'm concerned it's money well spent. Commenter 4. You're lucky the ex is so reasonable. I don't know why you would make the deal initially at all, given that you split assets 50-50ths, she should have plenty to cover her own bills. But that's done and now she's even on board for it stopping. What you're experiencing from her so is how people would normally react to their free ride suddenly wising up. Don't worry about her SO's anger or anyone who criticizes you for your position here, except insofar as how much that guy will be a thorn in your side moving forward co-parenting. Reply. We put most of the cash assets into long-term investments so they aren't actually available to dip into. The idea is that it will help with uni and buying homes for the kids. A good chunk of it is in trust for the kids. Commenter 5. Info. I don't understand this arrangement. Is she living mortgage-free in a house that she owns? Does she work now? The new guy is not responsible for putting money towards her house or paying for her personal expenses. Reply. She lives mortgage-free in a house that she owns but was the marital home. Because we inherited my dad's house, the settlement was that I traded my half of the family home for her half of my dad's house. She works part-time the 3 days a week the kids are at mine. I would imagine she's asked him to chip in towards the bills, as she's losing her discount on the council tax by him moving in, and generally people share living costs. Update, Aita for stopping paying my ex's bills. So Lado turned out to have been being kicked out of his place not through fault, the landlord was selling, he hadn't told my ex. Also he works with my best mate who told me that he's on incredibly thin ice and was on his last chance for attendance. Me, the ex and Lado got together at the weekend and had a long chat. The main points were, if he is going to be her partner and live there then he has to step up, and contribute both financially and also with the children. As regards the bills, both my ex and I had an expectation that another adult in the house would be contributing, meaning that bill money from me would be superfluous. I agreed that stopping the money because someone moves in and potentially restarting it if they move out does look like it's controlling, although it was agreed that I didn't have that intent. I said that I would continue giving my ex the money and that if it was surplus to requirements that she would put it in the kids' accounts. I do trust her that she will do this. At that point I left, and went home thinking all was good. I'm on holiday with the kids this week and I got a warning that the house alarm was going off. Rang me neighbors and he went round and said that one of the windows had been smashed and that my other car had had all its windows smashed. Logged into my cameras on the iPad and sure enough it's Lado smashing the fuck out of the car and throwing bricks at the window. Turns out that after I left him and the ex had a major talk where she laid out some home truths and expectations and when she didn't like the reaction she got she ended it. So a couple of days later he got pissed and came round to my place and smashed it up. I obviously reported it to the police and with me being away they spoke to me over the phone and asked me to send all the footage if I could and a statement and they'd speak to him that day. Turns out he got stopped on the way back from mine, was over the limit and was sleeping it off in custody before he could be charged. Edit. I've seen a couple of comments about how I need to speak to the ex and tell them to be more careful. I 100% trust her judgment in who comes into the kids' lives. I was just as surprised by him as she was, and like most people she's capable of learning from experience. Also another edit. The Glaziers have been back out, oh the lady next door big style for all the help she's been, and apparently the total bill just for the house is going to be about £7,000. That's not counting the car, which is an old Rover I was restoring so no idea how much that will cost. Update. Probably the final update now. Got back home with the kids after our week away, I've got the window people fitting new windows. Had a victim update from the police, they charged with criminal damage but apparently they're treating it as domestic violence. I had to get a friend who is a lawyer to explain that to me using crayons. But the main consequence is that they kept him in custody overnight, whipped him before the magistrates the next day, they sent the case to Crown Court and released him on police bail and he's not allowed near either of our homes or to contact either of us, and he has to stay at a bail hostel which is in another town about half an hour away. He's looking at some prison time for this. I just hope that while he's in there he gets his head sorted out and his issues dealt with. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Here's wishing Lado all the health, happiness and success that he deserves. Commenter 2. With him being locked up, he will for sure lose the job he was on thin ice at because of attendance. Though I guess if he goes to prison for destruction of property and not being able to pay for the damage, at least he'll have a roof over his head and 3 meals per day. Reply. This is Britain. He'll get fined, at most a low-level community order. Edit. He'll lose the job anyway because he will certainly be banned from driving. Commenter 3. Some people just can't help themselves from self-sabotaging. Reply. I've got some sympathy to a certain extent because he suffers really badly with PTSD from when he was in Iraq for Optelic. But I was there too and it's like dude we're all suffering but you have to do something to help yourself and he never has. Commenter 4. When he sobers up, press charges for breaking and entering and property damage, then send him the bill for all the repairs. People like him deserve everything they get. On a separate note, it's so nice to hear how well you and your ex get along and both work well to provide love and happiness for your children. Reply. You don't press charges here. I've made a complaint of criminal damage, the police will investigate that complaint and if they have sufficient evidence to charge it, which they will, they'll charge the person and summon them to court. There's some interplay with the CPS who may decide against prosecuting and I'm not sure on the threshold where the police can charge or it needs CPS approval. If I refuse to support a prosecution they may discontinue it or they may prosecute anyway. Commenter 5. You and your ex get along very well. That is awesome. Lado definitely seemed like the guy that thought it would be okay for you to support him. Glad it came out and your ex didn't get stuck with him long term. One question. Why not just stay together and make life cheaper in these times? OT seems co-parenting would be cheaper and better for the kids even if you slept in different rooms. I get that neither would have total privacy. You two seem you're writing to get along so well. Reply. The short version is that we ended up being roommates that were looking after kids instead of husband and wife. We went to couples counseling and all that and we came to the conclusion that it was too late for us as a couple but we would still salvage the co-parenting, which after a lot of hard work we're managing. Stories number 14. Aita for not wanting to share my medical reports with my BF's family. So I 32F had a health scare recently, and ended up in the hospital for a few days. They did multiple tests, and while the reports were not conclusive, they did find some minor issues in my ovaries and a blood infection. After being released, I decided to get a second opinion from another, trusted doctor. Now, my BF 34 sent me a message that his father sent him not me, to ask me to share my medical report so that they can show it to his uncle, who is a doctor. I am not comfortable with this. I grew up in a family of doctors, where if anything would go wrong, my relatives would always know and it always gave me this sense of invasion of privacy. I told my BF that I am not comfortable sharing my medical reports with his family, especially when I don't know his uncle that well. I would prefer to show my own doctor. He called me immature and how I don't have an understanding of things. I told him to fuck off. Aita for not wanting to share my reports with his family, even though his uncle is a doctor. Comments. Commenter 1, NTA. I'm not comfortable with that, should have been the end of it. Your boyfriend needs to respect your boundaries. Commenter 2, NTA. If you choose to get a second opinion from your BF's uncle, you can set that up on your own. Your BF is an AH for not respecting your right to say no. Commenter 3. His uncle being a doctor doesn't make him your doctor, or even the kind you need. NTA. Commenter 4. This was a test to see if you will let these people dominate and control you. Show him you have a very clear understanding of things, by making this loser your ex-BF. NTA. Stories number 15. I got surgery and my boyfriend set a reminder to get me flowers. This was 3 weeks ago. I don't know how to distinguish between asking for too much or asking for the bare minimum. I make my boyfriend coffee every morning and lunch every day. I make dinner most nights. I do the laundry. Change the bed sheets. I got surgery 3 weeks ago and my mum flew over for it. He was too hungover to come with me. When we came back home, he had been smoking weed with his friends so went to bed. A week later he said he had actually meant to get me flowers for my arrival but his friends were over so he wasn't able to. I've asked him for sunflowers for the past 3 weeks. He said he's set reminders for it. I bought myself the damn sunflowers yesterday. I get social media is fake and the grand gestures are probably all orchestrated. But my God. I'd like to feel seen. Edit. OMG, I didn't expect this to receive this much traction. Thank you so much for all the comments and also the well wishes. It's really opened my eyes. The flowers aren't even the worst point here. I'm truly delusional right now. I need to find the courage to do what needs done. Thank you everyone. Comments. Commenter 1. Honestly, he sounds like a shitty boyfriend. A decent boyfriend would be concerned about your well-being, prioritizing keeping you company and being there for you when he can. Yours doesn't seem to care or even try. All men who care tend to show it differently, but they also never leave you in question about whether or not they care. Commenter 2. Bestie, just throw the whole man away. What are you even getting out of this relationship? Reply. We've been together 5 years and lived together. It's so hard to make the jump. Stories number 16. Aita for getting angry at my foster mother's way of fixing me. Okay, so I 17M have lived with foster carers A 38F and B 40M for 11 years. The reason I was put into foster care is because of the death of my younger baby sister 14 months when I was 4. To put it lightly, it wasn't exactly natural causes, and was caused by a bio parent if you get what I'm trying to say. And I can vividly remember everything around those circumstances, think about it every day and mourn the loss of my sister. The thing is, this has caused a rather intense reaction to young children. I can't be around kids under the age of 4 approximately without having panic attacks, flashbacks or screaming fits. I've tried to get professional help but counselors say they aren't trained enough to help me and therapists have extremely long waiting lists. Neither social services nor my carers are willing to pay for private therapy, and I can't afford it on my part-time job. The issue was also ignored/mocked by my family for a while since they didn't know the exact circumstances of me going into care, so for years they would trigger me on purpose because they thought it was funny. I've tried building up a tolerance by watching YouTube videos but it isn't much help, although I am almost completely functional in public now. I wasn't until about January this year. In the last few years, the siblings of both A and B have had babies. 2 to each sibling, 6 babies total, all under the age of 4, currently the oldest being 3. I can't see these children, so usually end up in a back room somewhere or on the streets walking circles when we go to see the kids/they come to us. A and A's mom have decided that since I'm nearly an adult now it's time for me to grow up and fix myself, because it's awkward to have a kid that can't see the babies. So over the last 2 years they've begun lying to me. They would take me out, saying we're going one place, then go to the baby's house. They'd then get angry when I'd have panic attacks. Every Christmas they'll say the babies aren't coming round, then shove the babies in my face and get angry when I remove myself from the room, saying I'm ruining Christmas. We'll go to other relatives' houses and then pretend they told me all along that the babies were going to be there. I don't mind going as much, it's just the fact they won't tell me means I'm usually unprepared. For example, one winter I ended up going for a walk in below zero temperatures in a t-shirt because I was told we were going to my uncle's which has rooms I can go in to avoid babies, but we ended up at A's brother's which doesn't have rooms I can go in. I also got in trouble that time for showing A up in front of extended family for my reaction to the babies, aka 3 panic attacks back to back, which is why I then spent hours in the cold. They also didn't tell me another relative was pregnant until she had the baby and we were going to see it. They told me on the car journey to the hospital. I found out today that all this has been part of a plan to secretly try, fix my phobia, because I'm getting too old for being scared of babies. I've also been told I'm being pathetic, overreacting, being offensive and disturbing the mothers. I got mad. It's not my fault I witnessed the tragedy of my sister's death when I was so young, and lying to me about it only causes me more issues. I said I'm being in awe. So, Aita, edit, thank you to everyone who's commented. I wasn't expecting such a response to be honest, and it made me cry a bit because sometimes I feel like I'm going mad. I will book an appointment with a GP soon. I'm getting a new social worker and an advocate soon, so we'll talk to them too. I have a job already, but the pay is very minimal, so I'm trying to get a couple more for over the summer, but finding jobs is quite difficult. I am saving to try get out. If it gets far worse than this, I have a friend who will let me stay at hers, but her place is small, so it's not the best long term. I'm not sure what will happen from here. Updates will probably be slow, if any. Edit 2. I also feel quite guilty going against my carers because it feels like I owe them. But there's other stuff that's happened too in the last year that could be said to be worse than this, so really it does need reporting. However, A denies all constantly and doesn't believe she's ever in the wrong. She's never apologized for anything. Not really sure how she'd react to me reporting this. Edit 3. Today I get to spend 4 hours on a desk chair crammed in a random corner because the bed I'm staying in at B's parents has the cot next to it and the babies are visiting. Edit 4. Aya and I've been kicked out because I'm invading A's space. Right after a lecture where she blamed me for my fear. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA, hope you are saving up so you can move out when you turn 18. I understand them wanting to help you, but they are not doing it the right way. Yes, you should be around kids without having panic attacks. Surprising you with a baby clearly isn't working. Reply, I'm trying. I've got a friend I can move in with if things get real bad, but for now I kinda walk on eggshells. There's more that's not in this post. I'm trying to get a couple more jobs so I can save faster. I've never felt so validated. I thought I was insane for my fear. Commenter 2. I'm so sorry, those people absolutely should not be foster parents at all. Have you told your social worker that they are intentionally triggering your trauma? It's scary to think they'd get another kid after you and treat them in the same cruel way. NTA at all. Reply, they won't get another kid after me. They have my little siblings too, but I know they never really wanted kids. They felt obligated since they're technically my cousins. I'll talk to my new social worker when I get them. Current one is leaving soon. Commenter 3. Have you tried discussing this with B for him to talk to his wife? Is that safe for you to do? Reply, he has a tendency to not stand up to his wife. She also denies a lot to him. There was a situation with some really bad stuff she said to me April 2024 which B found out about in October. He was gonna call the social worker about it, but she persuaded him that I was lying to make her look bad. We also had a conversation about 4 hours back where A tried to accuse me of faking my phobia with B present, and all that's happened when I've argued back is that I'm now banned from family holidays. And I got kicked out the house for a few hours. I'm gonna do an update about some of the stuff that's happened in the last 24 hours I think, but at the end of the week once I've also contacted my GP and social worker. Update. A couple months ago I made a post about my foster mother's way of handling my trauma response to seeing/being in the vicinity of babies. Basically, I 17M have an extreme trauma response to babies ranging from breakdowns, disassociation and panic attacks depending on situation, and it was caused by childhood events that landed me in foster care. To put it lightly, my foster mother doesn't like my trauma responses. I'm here with an update. A few people had asked for updates a while ago under the original post. Here it is. After that initial post there was a major argument where my foster mom attempted to blame my fear on myself, saying I was doing it to attention seek, and after that she said I would no longer be allowed to see this side of the family. Conveniently, last week when they were visiting family, my foster mom arranged an orthodontist appointment that meant I couldn't go. In complete honesty, a blessing, because whilst I really want to see my grandparents still, I didn't particularly want to go through what had happened the previous holiday again. I was left behind with my uncle. My old college spoke to my independent reviewing officer sorta like an outside social worker who isn't meant to side with either the parents or kids from my understanding, a sorta neutral person. There was stuff my carers were telling workers in meetings that wasn't correlating with what my college had been told by myself, so they reported it. My little sister also reported some stuff, so in the end I didn't bring up issues, it was others around me. So today, the IRO came to speak to me alone. I reported all the baby situation stuff, and discovered my carers have in fact been suggested to take therapy training to help me handle my trauma, but had turned it down, believing they didn't need it. I also reported some other stuff as well. I now know my options, and in 5 months I turn 18. I believe the best option now is for me to move out at 18, which will be financially supported by the local council and social services. I currently don't have a proper job because my national insurance number hasn't been sorted yet, so no one will hire me, but I should be getting it in the next few weeks. Hopefully then I can get a job which will help with moving out. From what I understand, with my situation the local council will cover rent if it's under £90 per week through a social housing scheme, then I get about £75 a week for food and stuff. If I want somewhere with a higher rent, I cover the costs. I'll also be getting universal credit once I turn 18. I believe a part-time job will be best to make living more financially comfortable even with the monetary support though. Comments. Commenter 1. Your foster mom literally refused trauma training and then blamed you for your trauma exploding head. Commenter 2. And now OP can rightfully blame her. So you're saying I was a bad mom? 100%, absolutely, with zero doubts. Commenter 3. Dude, your foster family are monsters. This issue could have been worked through easily when you were younger with a little support from a real therapist. Instead they chose to traumatize the fuck out of an already traumatized kid and then bully you for your trauma response. Those fuckers shouldn't be allowed around children. I'm sorry they failed you OP, I'm glad you've been able to make progress towards getting TF out of there. Stories number 17. Aita for canceling the wedding because my fiancé made a secret deal with my dad. I 28F was supposed to get married 2 months ago to my fiancé 30M. We had been together for 5 years. He proposed during a vacation in Santorini and it felt like the most perfect moment of my life. I truly believed I had found my person. Planning the wedding was stressful, but exciting. I come from a well-off family and my dad had offered to pay for a large portion of it. He has always been a bit controlling, especially when it comes to money. He used to tell me growing up that I needed to protect myself financially, especially in relationships. I thought it was just fatherly advice. Sometimes it bordered on paranoid, but I chalked it up to him having seen some ugly divorces in his line of work. He's a lawyer. 2 weeks before the wedding, my dad and I were having lunch and going over some final guest list stuff when he said something that completely blindsided me. I don't remember his exact words, but it was something like, "At least now I know he signed the prenup. Money well spent." I literally paused mid-bite. I asked him what he meant and he brushed it off at first, then said he had offered my fiancé a significant sum of money to sign a prenup he drafted months ago. Not a mutual prenup. Not something we created together. Something he wrote up himself, behind my back. And my fiancé agreed to it. I went home that night and confronted my fiancé. At first, he looked like a deer in headlights. Then he admitted it. Yes, my dad approached him with a prenup. Yes, he signed it. And yes, he accepted the money. His reasoning? He didn't want to stress me out. He said my dad was being intense and he just wanted to keep the peace. He claimed he was always planning to tell me, eventually. He just didn't know how. The part that hurt the most wasn't even the prenup itself. Honestly, I understand the value of one, especially with the wealth imbalance between me and my fiancé. I would have been totally fine discussing it openly. What broke me was the secrecy. The fact that 2 of the most important men in my life made a deal about my future without me. The fact that money was exchanged like my marriage was some business arrangement. I felt like I was being handled, not respected. I called off the wedding the next day. It wasn't a dramatic scene. I just told him I couldn't go into a marriage with that kind of breach of trust hanging over us. He begged me to reconsider. He said it was a stupid mistake, that he did it for me, that he didn't want to start our life together with conflict. He said we could rip up the prenup. But the damage was done. He made a life-altering financial decision about our marriage without even consulting me, and the only reason I found out was because my dad accidentally let it slip. Since then, everyone has had an opinion. My mom thinks I overreacted and says I'm throwing away a great relationship over a technicality. My friends are split, some say I dodged a bullet, others think I'm being cold. My dad, who caused all this, is now acting like he was the victim and said he was just trying to protect me. My ex has been texting and calling non-stop, saying he still wants to make things right. I miss him. I still love him. But I can't shake the feeling that if he hid this from me before the wedding, what else would he be willing to hide in the future? So. Aita for calling the whole thing off. Comments. Commenter 1. I don't think the dad wanted her to marry this guy. He conveniently let it slip. Now he is playing protective father. Commenter 2. What is it with people thinking they have the right to make decisions for others without consulting the person involved? Commenter 3. Interesting how both men claim they just wanted to protect you, but failed to see that they treated you as a child. Stories number 18. My son confessed that he's gay and broke down. I don't know what to do. I'm sorry if my wording is a bit off, it's been a long day. I 45M am originally from Russia but have lived in the UK for the past 20 years. My son 17M is adopted. I've raised him since he was 6. He is everything to me. Yesterday, he came into my room and said he needed to tell me something. He looked pale and nervous, like he was going to be sick. His eyes seemed red like he'd already cried. He told me he's gay. And before I could even say anything, he started crying really hard. He kept saying, "I'm sorry," like he had done something terrible. I didn't know what to do. I tried to hug him, but he flinched like he was expecting me to hit him. That broke my heart. I told him I love him no matter what. That didn't seem to calm him down. He just cried more, kept asking if I was mad, if I still wanted him. The truth is, I'm not mad. I'm not even surprised. Part of me had wondered. But I come from a place where this is not really talked about. I grew up hearing very harsh things about gay people. In my head, I know a lot of that was wrong, but the feelings are complicated, especially since even here in the UK a lot of people talk badly about gay people. I don't want to hurt my son. I don't want him to feel afraid of me. I don't care that he's gay. I care that he felt he had to apologize for being himself. I must have done something wrong to make him feel that way. That's on me. I guess I'm writing this because I don't know what I'm supposed to do next. How do I support him in the right way? I didn't grow up with examples of this. I don't know how to talk about it without saying the wrong thing. I want to be the kind of father who makes him feel safe. Please, any advice is welcome. I'm not perfect, but I want to do better. Thank you. Comments. Commenter 1. The good thing is that he feels comfortable enough with you to be able to come out and tell you. So many kids commit suicide because they think their parents will kick them out or hurt them in some way. I think the best thing you can do now is to tell him again that you accept him and love him just the way he is. Commenter 2. Hi gays, I'm Dad, come upstairs when you two are done. My dad said through the door right after he almost walked in on me with a guy to ask what we wanted for dinner. Just be there for him, he's going through a lot right now. Stories number 19. Aita for feeling upset that my girlfriend is more impacted over Stan Lee's death than my father's death. I know that I am the asshole because I blew up on her about it when I should have been calm and should have stepped away from the issue. Don't judge me on that, because I could not have helped that part, but I still need insight on why it's wrong/right for me to feel this way. I have known my girlfriend 20F for 4 years, but we have only been dating for 1 year. She met my parents a couple of times, and we had a trip last Christmas break where she stayed in a hotel with me and my parents. It was a good time all around. Half a year ago, my dad passed away. It was expected, but it still hit me and my mom hard. My girlfriend reacted to the news with shock when I told her. She was there for me when I was really struck by grief, but ultimately, she was over it just about the instant she heard it. I chalked it up to her not having known him all her life, but today, it really made me feel aggravated. A couple of hours ago, Stan Lee died and news got around. May he rest in peace. The moment my girlfriend heard, she broke down crying in a way that I have never seen her cry. She was so mortified by this, and I sat down with her, reminded of the day that my father died and the way that I broke down. She started talking about Spider-Man, her favorite comic book series. Stuff like how she couldn't believe that such a good man died and how she was going to miss seeing his cameos. And for some reason, I couldn't help but wonder why she never said anything like this when my father died. Sure, she was there for me, but all she did was listen and tell me, I don't know what to say. Every time I talked to her about my memories. At the time, I accepted this. Stan Lee is a media legend, sure, but she didn't even know him. My dad was someone that she sat down and ate dinner with. My dad was someone that she met, and she couldn't spare any tears for him. I was very upset. I told her these things, yelling when I said it. She stopped crying and looked shocked, and even in the moment, I knew that I shouldn't have exploded like that. We decided that we will talk about this tomorrow. Look. Roast me. Tear into me. I feel very strongly about this, but I know that I might be in the wrong. I want you to tell me why I'm wrong so that I can gain perspective on this. Relevant comments. When told that his girlfriend barely knew his dad. Sorry, I swear I'm not trying to argue with you, but the way that you phrased it kind of resonated with the train of thought that made me upset in the first place. I know that she barely knew my dad, but she also barely knew Stan Lee. I guess what is hard for me to wrap myself around, and that upsets me to think about, is how Stan Lee can be closer to her than my dad was. I just cannot wrap myself around the concept that she was closer to Stan Lee, a celebrity, than my dad, a person she talked to and spent extended time around. Commenter 1. First of all, I'm sorry for the loss of your father. That must have been a very difficult time for you. I think maybe the fact that your dad's passing is still pretty recent may have played into you blowing up on her, but I don't necessarily think you're an asshole because of this. You just didn't express your feelings about it when you should have. Blowing up over it was definitely the wrong move, and yeah, maybe a bit of an asshole move, but I 100% understand where you're coming from. You need to remember, she didn't idolize your dad like she idolized Stan Lee, and she didn't have the appropriate reaction for either death. I think it's a bit much to be sobbing about the death of a celebrity you don't know, and I think she should have been more sympathetic about your father's death because yeah, that's a very hard time. What it boils down to is the fact that she was supportive for you during your loss but you weren't supportive to her during her loss. However, your loss is much more impactful. So I'm a bit mixed here, if I should consider you the asshole or not. Reply. Thank you for our kind words. I understand that my anger was a spur-of-the-moment thing. I normally have a better handle on my emotions, but when it comes to stuff about my dad, I'm still way too tender about it. I guess it isn't fair to be angry about her for not doing more in the past, since I can't change that. Though I can understand that I am the asshole for not being there for her during a hard moment, there is a part of me that is irrationally angry that she is more upset about an idol than she was about someone I knew personally and that she met. I'm still not sure how to tackle this situation, but I still wanted to reply and say thank you for the kind way that you phrased things. Commenter 2. Asshole. Not really. Right? Definitely not. As hard as it is to hear it, Stan Lee was probably more impactful on her life than your father was, aside from his association with you. Marvel, superheroes, Spider-Man, media in general influences people's lives and ideals. Humans love to tell stories, and these stories shape our worldview. She's absolutely allowed to be upset and grieve over Stan Lee, the creator and originator of so many of these stories that she loves. One day, I can guarantee people will react the same way over George Lucas or J.K. Rowling, but you're still grieving over your father, and I get that it's frustrating for you to see her upset over someone she's never met. However, when she was trying to comfort you in those early weeks, she probably just didn't know how. Especially if she hasn't gone through anything similar. How do you comfort someone after a loss like yours? There's no way to take the loss away, there's no way to make it better. She was probably thinking of every solution she could and had the self-awareness to know that there wasn't a real way to make it better. And if she did react as strongly to his death as you did, she wouldn't be there to help you. She'd be working through it herself, and it would be about her and not you or your mom. It probably wouldn't be an honest response either if she broke down, not knowing your father that well. So I guess what I'm getting at is, what would you want her to do instead? She can't stop herself from being upset over something that's upsetting. And she can't pretend to be upset when she isn't or when she's trying to help you. Comfort and be there for each other. Don't dismiss and blame her for the feelings that she can't help. Commenter 3. Definitely the asshole. Go apologize and bring her favorite food. Update. I took into consideration a lot of the comments, but probably won't have the time or the emotional capacity to respond to all of them. There are a lot of you that showed incredible empathy during this time, and some of you that showed none at all. I wanted to say thank you to those of you that offered your condolences, even though you didn't have to. I really do admit that I'm the asshole for blowing up at her and for not being there for her during a tender moment, like she had been there for me. I recognized that she was also mourning, but the asshole in me was upset that she was mourning over someone that she had never met, whereas I would always carry the wound of my father not being there. Anyway, that's all just filler to explain that I stopped to think about why I felt the way I did. Earlier, I stopped by her house with McDonald's thanks to the guy who told me to bring her favorite food and she sat down with me to talk about it. We always talk through our issues, but this was the first time that I have ever been emotional in a way that I knew was wrong, but couldn't stop myself from feeling that way. I apologized to her and she squirted ketchup on my kneecap as payback. Sounds weird, but she was just being playful. She told me that she understood that my father's death was still a fresh thing and that she could understand where my anger was coming from, but that I was in the wrong for having blown up about it. She would have preferred that I had stated how I was feeling calmly, even if the way that I felt wasn't right to begin with. She told me that it wasn't okay, but she forgave me, asked for a get-out-of-jail-free card if she ever got upset about something she couldn't help feeling upset about. I know I'm super lucky to have met someone who will talk me through anything. Like some of you said, she told me that for her, she was upset that Stan Lee was someone that she had never known, but whose work she will always carry close to her heart. She has always been invested in fandom/geeky things, so I can get that, even if I might never experience it. She told me that she mourned for my dad too, that she always appreciated the things that my family has done with and for her, but that she felt that the last thing I needed while mourning was for her to cry too, that she wanted to be my rock at the time. She made some cool metaphor about rocks and rivers, but I forgot what it was. But ultimately, I wanted to thank some of you guys in the thread. Some of you phrased it very aptly, in a way that really made me understand why I was in the wrong. Her grief is separate from mine, and I have no right to police it. Though it hurt to talk through and to admit I was in the wrong, I am glad I talked to her about it. That's all. Thanks again. Stories number 20. Aita for refusing to change jobs because of my friend's girlfriend. I 23 recently moved to Seoul and got a job as a stage performer at a local club. I'm in good shape, so my job involves putting on shows for female audiences, dancing, interacting with them on stage, going into the crowd, etc. It's physically demanding work, and sometimes I get inappropriately touched, like getting scratches on my torso, which sucks since my looks are part of my income. But the pay is good, and I really need the money. Here's why: my older brother recently battled a serious illness, lost his income, and my parents drained their savings to help him. Before this, they could support me financially, now it's my turn to help them. Enter my best friend, Jay, 25 who's lived in Seoul for years with his girlfriend Annie, 27F. Recently, Jay used his work bonus to buy front row tickets to my show. Big mistake. During my performance, where I'm required to interact with front row attendees, I approached their section. Annie wrapped her arms around me, ran her hands over my body, and basically clung to me for several seconds. Standard work stuff. I was about to move on when Jay started yelling at me to get away from his girl and shoved me slightly. Our club's protocol: when guys get jealous, we're trained to immediately disengage and redirect. No arguing, just exit the situation. This isn't my first rodeo with jealous boyfriends, so when Annie full-on groped me during my crowd walk standard for my role, and Jay started shoving/yelling, I followed protocol and walked away. After the show, Jay sent then deleted some angry voice messages before sending a final text. He apologized for attacking me but said Annie is obsessed with me and demanded a face-to-face talk, his idea. At coffee, he dropped a bomb. Annie won't stop talking about me. Her touching me was inappropriate. He insisted I quit my job. I said no. This income supports my family. Audience interaction is mandatory. I can't pick and choose. He brought her to my workplace, knowing what my job entails. Jay accused me of encouraging her, gave a quit or we're done ultimatum, and blocked me everywhere when I stood my ground. Now I'm sitting here like WTF. Aita for prioritizing my family's financial needs over my friend's jealousy. Update: Aita for refusing to change jobs because of my friend's girlfriend. I work as a stage performer at a club in Seoul. My job involves dancing and interacting with female audiences. Yes, that kind of interaction. My best friend Jay brought his girlfriend Annie to my show. She got way too handsy. Jay lost his shit, demanded I quit my job, and blocked me when I refused because, I need the money to support my family. Original story in my account. Now, the update. After the blow-up, Annie started showing up to my shows alone. Every damn night. When I'd do crowd walkthroughs, she'd grope me, squeal in my ear, and generally act like these weirdo girls at some K-pop concert. It made me uncomfortable, so I told my manager. Manager's response: she's not breaking rules, she paid for tickets, suck it up and earn your paycheck. Cool. Very professional. Then, last week, I got a weird DM. When I ignored it, more messages flooded in. Spoiler, it was Annie. No clue how she got my number. Jay probably didn't give it to her, so my guess. My manager give it. Some guys at our club offer private shows for extra cash, you get the idea. I don't do that shit, and the manager knows, but hey, money talks. I politely told Annie I wasn't interested. She either didn't care or didn't process it, because she kept spamming me, texts, calls, even video chats. She texted me, "Do you ever think about me when you're alone, shit? Bro, no." I blocked her, but I'm just waiting for her to show up with a burner number at this point. I asked a mutual friend to explain the situation to Jay. Radio silence for days. Meanwhile, Annie kept coming to shows. Then, last week, she waited outside the club and followed me to my dorm, trying to chat me up and babbling about how we'd be perfect together. Okay, Reddit, be honest, am I missing something here? Because from where I'm standing, this is next level delulu. I repeated, not interested, but she just ignored it. Finally shook her off at the dorm entrance. At this point, I was done. Had our mutual friend message Jay again because, seriously, this is insane. Jay finally replied. His take. He still thinks I'm the asshole here because now Annie throws full-blown tantrums whenever he tries to go to the club with her. Apparently she only wants to go when she knows I'm performing, and if Jay suggests going together, she loses it and accuses him of not trusting her. He said I lead her to this. But fine, he'll talk to her. Cut to the next time Annie ambushed me after work a few days ago. This time, though, she looked crushed. Asked why I kept rejecting her. I said, you're gorgeous, but you're not my type, and you're dating my best friend. She started crying, called me a lying asshole, and left. Honestly, I'm shocked it worked. No idea what happens next, but fingers crossed Jay actually got through to her. So, Aita for not quitting my job and somehow ending up in this telenovela. Stories number 21. We went to a restaurant in Leipzig and then this happened. So a few weeks ago we, a choir group, were in Leipzig touring around Germany. At noon we split up to go to get food. One of the groups went to a restaurant, where they ordered food. Luckily before eating, they found that there were some sort of maggots or worms, might be something else crawling around in there. I can't upload a video but you can see them squirming, they are clearly alive. When they told the restraint staff about this, they denied it, and when they told the staff they weren't going to pay for it they got aggressive and demanded pay. Eventually they settled on an amount to pay, I think it was half, and left. I then posted this review on Google, just stating that there were maggots in food and they made us pay. Fast track a week, I got an email saying my review had been removed for being off topic. Strange, but I didn't think much of it. When I went on to Google Maps today, I noticed that I had got a reply from the owner, and it had said this. None of it is true, either they are thinking of another event or they are lying to get my review removed. Anyways, it wasn't a pleasant experience, but we had a great time in Germany otherwise. Also, I'm sure this was in Germany. It was in Leipzig, why the response was in Italian. Picture of the response by the owner. This is the second time you've published this fake news, concocted by you and your associates. It's no coincidence that immediately afterward, more people showed up offering to delete certain reviews in exchange for money. At this point, we're taking action to defend our actions in all legal venues against these charlatans who use a nickname to extort money from honest workers. I hereby warn you against continuing this harassing and deceptive behavior. Update. I checked my emails just now and to my surprise, I had received a formal letter from the German. I don't speak German, but upon translating it read, Good morning, thank you for your tip. The Veterinary and Food Inspection Authority conducted a food safety inspection on July 28, 2025, and initiated official measures. Sincerely, on behalf of Leipzig Food Inspection Department, this is some long-awaited good news. After 3 attempts, the restaurant has finally given up trying to delete my review, and it is still getting more likes and reactions each day. I've had many locals tell me similar stories, which has led me to learn more about this common issue that is happening every day at restaurants and other establishments all around Germany. I would like to briefly talk about what I've learned from this whole experience. According to many users, this place does not have 3.9 stars as it says on Google. I've heard it is common practice for restaurants to purchase fake reviews and hire people to take down reviews that they don't agree with. In reality, this place could have a realistic 1-star review, but many people each day see 3.9 stars and go there without knowing. This needs to stop. Legally, I've discovered many similar incidents where the restaurant has threatened to sue someone unless they remove their post. I was scrolling through posts on r/Germany today and my eyes nearly popped out of my head with the number of similar incidents that had occurred, including one only 16 hours ago. The restaurant or establishment denies the claim, then threatens further legal action unless the post is deleted. In some cases, once the customer provides evidence, they cannot delete the review anymore, which is evident at this specific restaurant that my friends went to. On Google, I found this. German law distinguishes between assertion of fact and expression of opinion. While opinions are broadly protected, false factual assertions are not. It seems many restaurants abuse this rule and claim that the posted review is fake, which means they can automatically get it removed from Google, and prompt further action if needed. Quoting Reddit user u/medium_banana 4074. There is an entire industry of lawyers specialized to remove unfavorable reviews for businesses. And Google will remove the reviews if you cannot prove that you for instance were at this restaurant at the time. It also seems German laws has many laws in place that aren't very consumer friendly, and in some cases, I've heard that judges often show bias towards the restaurant owners. It's funny, because if they would never have replied to my review in the first place, none of this would have ever happened. I already have moved on and almost forgotten about the restaurant until only a week ago, and now it looks like they'll either be fined or closed down. Thank you everyone. Stories number 22. I'm so tired of always being considerate of other people, but other people aren't considerate of me. Posting here because I'm hoping to avoid men who probably complain about the male loneliness epidemic in the same breath that they say, I don't owe you anything. Like many women, I go through life always taking into consideration the people around me. Family, friends, coworkers, strangers, everyone. I walk light on my feet in my second-floor apartment so I don't bother the downstairs neighbors. I don't play music or TV too loud. When I park my car, I make sure I'm not obstructing the sidewalk with my bumper. When I'm at the grocery store and it's busy, I try to be quick when browsing the shelves so I don't block it for too long. This thing is in your way while you're working on something. Let me move that for you, it takes me 2 seconds. Need help doing a small task? I'm not busy, I'll do it. Have things to carry upstairs? Give me some, I'll lighten your load. Need a ride to a doctor's appointment? I got you. Are you comfy on the couch but want a snack? I haven't sat down yet, I'll go to the kitchen and get you one. I work in customer service, and I even try to always maintain empathy for rude or annoying customers because I don't know who they are or what they're going through. Maybe they had a bad day, maybe their mom died this morning, maybe they just got off a 12-hour shift. Basically, if there's something I can do to help, or something I can do to make sure I'm not inconveniencing others for the sake of my own wants, I will do it. I can't help it, it's who I am. I like helping. I like making people's lives easier. Most of the time, it makes me happy to do these things. Doing these things costs me very little, so why wouldn't I do them? But Lord, I'm getting so exhausted. I made a post in r/ami overreacting about how my roommate made me stand in the blazing heat while I was sick so she could read her mail at the mailbox, despite me politely asking her twice to pause and finish inside the apartment. We carpooled using her car, and had stopped at our mail center on the way back to our building. I was hurt and upset that she ignored me in favor of her mail, but I wondered if I was overreacting, hence posting in that sub. Multiple people told me to grow up and that the world doesn't revolve around me, that me being sick and suffering in the heat wasn't her responsibility. Maybe I'm a brat for it, but I eventually decided that they were wrong and I deleted the post. Because why the fuck should I have to suffer so she can read her mail? The world doesn't revolve around you, yeah, but it doesn't revolve around her either. It would have cost her literally nothing, like actually nothing, to pause her reading and finish at home. I'm not inconveniencing her by asking her to do something she was gonna do anyway. People love when you help them and make their lives easier. But some of y'all also get angry, apparently, when I dare to hope for the same basic, simple, easy considerations. Even my mother has scolded me for not having any empathy, when I vented to her about a customer making me terribly uncomfortable by trapping me at the front desk and trauma dumping for an hour about SA and suicide, while I had to sit there and nod and play nice like a dancing monkey because if I don't, I'll lose my job. I don't want to be bitter and angry, but I'm just so goddamn fed up with doing my best to make everyone else's world a better place, while at the same time being ridiculed for wanting just a little bit of kindness in return. I'm tired of being told that I should suffer so that I don't inconvenience other people, because my suffering isn't their problem. Your suffering isn't my problem either, but I'd still give you water if you're thirsty and bread if you're hungry. What's the fucking point of human society if we don't do the bare fucking minimum to help each other? But I'm tired. I'm so tired. Stories number 23. Aita for refusing to hang out with my 18M boyfriend's 20M friend who defended my rapist. A few months ago, someone at my college raped me. I reported it to the school's Title IX office and went through a very difficult process trying to hold that person accountable. During that time, one of their close friends, let's call her K, actively worked against me. She went as far as recruiting guys I had brief talking stages with to lie about me to support that person. She did everything she could to try to discredit me and protect them. Fast forward to now, I'm in a relationship with my boyfriend, and things have been really good, except for this issue. My boyfriend is very close friends with K. He knows what she did. I've told him how harmful and violating that time in my life was, and how much it hurts that she played a role in trying to silence me. But he's always kinda brushed it off. Recently, Kay suggested that the four of us, me, my boyfriend, Kay, and her boyfriend should all hang out. I immediately told my boyfriend I was uncomfortable, also a bit confused on why she'd even want to hang out with me, reminded him again of what Kay did to me, and explained that I don't feel comfortable being around her. His response: I don't think she's still associated with that person, the person being my rapist. I pointed out that she still follows and interacts with them on social media, and my boyfriend was just kinda stumped and labeled it suspicious. He said we'd hold off on hanging out and he'd talk to her. He keeps saying things like, I just see the good in people, and it makes me feel like he's ignoring the real impact this is having on me. I'm starting to feel crazy for even needing to explain why I wouldn't want to hang out with someone who tried to protect the person who raped me. But I also don't want to be that person who's controlling in a relationship by trying to make my boyfriend stop being friends with her. Stories number 24. I think I ruined my 24F and my boyfriend's 27M vacation and I don't know what to do. Hello everyone, my boyfriend 27M and I 23F are on vacation and we decided to rent a car. It was his idea. He doesn't have a valid driving license for the country we are in, so the only possible way to drive around is me being the only driver for the whole vacation trip. I usually really dislike driving, of course I do it anyway out of necessity, but driving in a foreign country with no one else who could take my place in case of emergency seemed a bit too much for me. Also I am very young, so I don't have much experience. So he tried to convince me, and after some arguing I finally gave in to his requests. Everyone knows sometimes you have to compromise in a relationship. The problem is that once we arrived I realized it was more difficult than I thought. I got really nervous and I also acted a bit bitchy towards him while driving out of pure stress, which made me feel really bad. I said I was sorry and everything, but the trip kept getting more and more stressful, with me having to drive for hours to reach the different places he booked and getting so tired both physically and mentally, as I am not used to long drives in the slightest, and because he doesn't drive he couldn't even take my place. Now he's telling me about how I'll never go anywhere with this attitude of mine, how surprised he is that I am so adverse to trying new things, and how I shouldn't go abroad if I am so uncomfortable with getting out of my comfort zone. All of this because I got so stressed out with all the driving I needed to do. I feel like I made some mistakes. I could have behaved better while driving. I didn't call him names, by the way. I just snapped a few times when he kept messing up with the directions he was giving me, but I also feel like he doesn't realize how demanding he's being and how bad his words hurt. I told him that I compromised with him and decided to rent a car, but he could have compromised too and booked places that weren't so far away from one another. He criticized me a lot for the whole vacation, basically telling me that I am not made for the life I would like to live. I want to go study abroad and all because of this car stuff. I also suggested that we bring the car back to the rental company earlier and find another solution, but he said absolutely not, that since I said yes I should be driving around until the end of the trip. At this point I don't care who is wrong and who is right, I just want to salvage what's left of the vacation and stop fighting. Have you got some advice for me? How would it be best to apologize for my behavior? Edit. I would also add some details since my original post got deleted. He's not driving because he's not from Europe and told me that getting an international would require an insane amount of annoying autocracy. The country I was driving in is Spain. Also I am 23, not 24 like in the title. Sometimes I mess it up since it's my birthday in a couple of months. Stories number 25. The Home Depot next to my house has an anti-homeless alarm that is driving me crazy. Across from my house is a shopping complex with a Home Depot. They recently installed an alarm that beeps at a low level constantly. One of the security guards says it is to ward away homeless people from sleeping nearby. It is from the store, not the complex, the store manager said so. Sometimes it was on even during the day. You can't hear it in the store because the wall block it. The problem is my house is really close to it and it is driving me crazy when I have my window open in the summer. I talked to them and they noted my complaint and said it was up to corporate. They did stop for a week or so, but it has started up again. I have recorded video of it every night. It is on to have proof. I'm looking for ideas to get them to stop this alarm. It is driving me crazy. I'm going to call Home Depot corporate and try to talk to the regional manager and maybe end it amicably. And I plan to talk to the city councilor and make a police report. I have considered going to a lawyer and asking them send a cease and desist letter. Any other ideas that can help my case without paying for a lawyer to sue them? Thank you everyone who gave advice. It felt much better to have the ammo in my back pocket. I ended not needing most of it. But the best case scenario is to not have to fire the ammo at all. The problem ended up being solved with just another friendly talk with the senior manager. I insisted on seeing the manger in charge that can make decisions and had a friendly talk with him about how the alarms are bothering the neighborhood across the street. No raised voice, not blaming him for it, and understood that it was a corporate decision but emphasizing that it was disruptive and playing the sound to him several times and asking him to help. He agreed that they were not being a good neighbor and would turn it off. He gave me his direct number and told me to call if it came on again. It only came back on a couple times in the next few weeks. Once I got in touch and turned it off soon after. The second time he had his phone on Do Not Disturb and it was on all night, but he was apologetic the next day and it has not been on since. I consider this an absolute win. Stories number 26. I feel weird about my wife coming into a doctor appointment with me. I'm 40, haven't gone to the doctor since college. Finally got hurt and am making the rounds. My wife wants to take the day off and not just drive me but come into the office and talk to the doctor during the exam. I'm not dying, it's a broken bone. This feels weird to me. Like she wants to mother me, or doesn't trust I'll listen or understand the doctor. She says she just wants to be supportive. I guess I don't have any good reasons for her not to be there. I do appreciate the support and would love her to drive me and sit in the waiting room. But she's taking it as a personal attack. I'd rather do this alone. Is going into the DR with your spouse normal? Is this something most people do and I should be more comfortable with it? Edit. Well, overwhelmingly in favor of her coming. I've asked her to join me in the exam. Hearing a few hundred strangers tell me I'm an idiot for not taking help from my wife is what I needed to hear. Comments. Commenter 1. I think it just depends on your dynamic. My mom goes to the doctor with my dad and his dad because they're both super bad at telling her what happened at the doctor and what was said, including instructions and things they're supposed to do afterward. They're both extremely forgetful. My dad's dad also forgets to tell the doctor about all the symptoms he's been having, and she's there to tell the doctor stuff he might forget to tell him himself that needs to be told along with medical history he might be forgetting. She's also a nurse and can understand more of the lingo they might use. I'm not sure what your dynamic is, so it might be weird for you guys but also could be helpful just depending. Commenter 2. It's helpful, actually. My husband has come in and taken notes, freeing me up from having to remember. Commenter 3. Sometimes having two people listen is way better than one. Commenter 4. Not going to the doctor for nearly 20 years is not normal. Stories number 27. Cops showed up at our house, claiming our vehicle was in a hit and run. Tonight the police knocked on our door out of the blue. Apparently, they received a call that my husband was in a hit and run on the way to pick up our daughter from daycare. The proof was a photo of my husband driving the car and this person claiming it happened. Our car was purchased used. It's a 2018 and in good condition overall. There are several scuffs or scrapes on the car, including a light scuff on the front bumper. These have been there for some time and are not new. The officer cited these scuffs as further proof that the accident occurred. The road this was reported on is 60 miles per hour. If you hit a car on this road, it would be apparent, one would think. The cops gave my husband a $700 citation with a court date we can attend to contest. We are worried that this will somehow continue to spiral into insurance claims or additional money, when there truly was no accident. We are pregnant with our second child who has a severe congenital heart defect and will require extensive medical treatment. I may have to quit my job to help care for him, so financial stability is especially important right now. Can they really insist this accident occurred? How concerned should we be? Thank you for any help. Stories number 28. Aita for giving my sister the silent treatment on her birthday after our mom bought her a brand new car. I'm 5 years older than my sister. Even though our mom has always compared us and tried to pit us against each other, we've always been close. I've spent most of my life protecting her from our parents and the mess at home. She's never really done the same for me, but I didn't mind. I figured that's what being the big sister is. I loved her for me, not because I expected anything back. When I was in my final year of high school, things at home were horrible. My parents would fight constantly, most nights screaming and drinking until 5 a.m. I was the one getting my sisters out of the house, calling the cops, trying to keep everyone safe. Safe to say, my parents weren't really preoccupied with raising their kids and doing normal parent things like teaching me how to drive and helping me get my license. I was barely functioning. The moment I graduated and turned 18, I left for uni across the state just to survive. This was in 2022 when inflation just started kicking in and everything was expensive and work was hard to find. I went nights without eating. I fully supported myself aside from the odd time my parents helped with rent when I was on the verge of getting kicked out. Eventually I had to drop out. I moved back home and started working minimum wage to just get by. My parents eventually divorced. That's a whole other story in itself, but basically, they both owe me a lot more money than the odd few times they helped with rent. I don't drive. I don't have a car. I can't afford one yet. I've asked my parents again and again just to help me practice or help me buy literally any car. I've told them I'll pay it off weekly, I don't care how old or beat up it is. Just something to help me get around. They never help. Meanwhile, my sister just turned 17, which is when you can start driving here. She's never had a real job, aside from a couple of summer shifts a few years ago. She said she wants a nice car and doesn't want to be embarrassed driving something old. Our mom has made it a priority to help her get driving. I've kept my mouth shut about it even though it hurt a lot. A few days ago I was on the phone with my sisters when my mom joined in and offered to drive me to the next town for an appointment I had made with my accountant and to pick up my new glasses. Then she casually mentions we'll be stopping at a dealership because she's buying my sister a brand new car for her birthday. I didn't even know how to react. I just started crying and told her I'd find another way to get there and hung up. Later that day my dad sat me down and told me my mom bought my sister an $18,000 car. He said it's best I heard it from him. She doesn't even have her license yet. I've offered to pay a car off in installments. I actually need one to work, to ship things for my side hustle, to make appointments. My sister doesn't need one. It's just an accessory to her and her private school friends. She doesn't take school seriously like I did. It doesn't make sense. But she gets a free brand new car and I get ignored, unless my mom needs me to babysit my youngest sister free of charge. My mom's excuse was, well, you wanted to go to uni, she doesn't, so she gets a car. For reference, she helped me with maybe $600 to $1,000 when I was studying. And she still complains about it. But suddenly it's totally fine to drop $18,000 on a kid who's never worked and doesn't even have a license. My sister didn't tell me about the car. I'm assuming she didn't want to hurt me. But today's her birthday and I just feel so angry and numb. I bought her a really nice perfume which hurt my bank account, but I wanted to make her feel special. Now I don't even want to give it to her. I will, but I don't want to talk to her. I don't want to see her. I feel like shit. I know it's not technically her fault. She didn't ask for this. But she's not stupid either. She knows I've been asking for help for years and she's staying quiet while benefiting from the same people who've constantly ignored and hurt me. It makes me feel like she's fine standing by while I suffer. It's a real kick to the stomach because I've always been loyal to her and defended her to my parents when things were the other way around. I've had huge problems and fights with my parents just because I have defended her in the past. My boyfriend says she's just a bystander in all this. Maybe he's right. But I can't fake it. I think I'm going to give her the gift and then leave. I need space. I can't sit there and smile while everyone celebrates her getting something I've been begging for years. So yeah. Aita for giving my sister the silent treatment on her birthday. Update. I know a lot of people are interested in how everything went down last night and I'll say this. I think I definitely dealt with this situation as well as I possibly could. I also want to clear some things up. I'm seeing an accountant because it's the end of financial year in Australia and we have to get our taxes done per law. I speak with British English and refer to states in my country because I am Australian, not because this is fake. Someone actually said that. I understand why my question and title might have framed the situation wrong, however I want to clear up that I did not speak to my sister yet when this was posted, as I had posted it in the morning right before going to work because I was having conflicting feelings on how to deal with it. She hadn't been given any silent treatment, I was just trying to figure out if that's the road I wanted to go down. On one hand I was really hurt and angry, but on the other hand I love my sisters more than anything, and while we do argue, it's always over small things. This time it feels too real and too hurtful. While I was at work I had some time to think it over. All of the people that told me that I needed to understand that my mom wanted a reaction out of me. She wanted me to go nuclear on my sister and she wanted me to be the bad guy here. The people that commented that, thank you so much. I realized a trend in my life that I had never noticed. I've always been an outspoken person. If I feel I'm being disrespected I defend myself. I'll shout, I'll call people names, and I'll make sure I'm heard. I've always been this way. I think it's a blessing and a curse. I like that I have this trait because it means I can assert myself when I'm being disrespected, but it also allows room for people like my mother to point at my behavior and say, hey, look at how you're acting. You're a terrible sister and a terrible person. I have now learned this is reactionary abuse. Which is a term my mum loves to accuse me and my sisters of along with triangulation, gaslighting etc. I feel like I've matured years in this past day. I will no longer react, I will no longer feel like yelling for my voice to be heard. I will let the actions speak for themselves. I don't need to do anything but laugh it off and distance myself. I have been treated this way because I allow myself to be treated this way. At the end of the day I need to take accountability for the disrespect I allow myself to go through on a daily basis. I wound up down by the beach after my shift yesterday. I was still too emotional to see my sister yet. A kind lady paid for my drink when my card declined. I have money, I just didn't transfer it properly and it made my day. She might have thought it was just an extra $3, but that kindness was what I needed in that moment. My dad called after a few hours and asked where I was. I explained to him that I won't be reacting how my mother expects. He agreed that that is exactly what she's trying to do. I also told him that I wasn't really up for celebrating but that I will go to dinner because I don't want to give my mum what she wants. He told me that it isn't my sister's fault and that it's all my mother. I told him that while that is true, my sister isn't completely innocent and I need her to know she cannot treat me like that. I came home, greeted my sister a happy birthday, cried in my room like a miserable sod and then pulled myself together for dinner. I gave her the perfume and she was really grateful and said it was the best gift she's been given. I didn't feel the enjoyment that I usually do when I give gifts to her. I just felt uncomfortable. In my family I have usually been the person at the dinner party that gets conversations going and keeps the energy. Usually out of some anxious need to control the situation. A consequence of playing this role is that can never sink into the background when I'm not feeling it. Others can, but when I do it leaves a thick silence behind it. So it was very obvious that I was sad but I still spoke to her and kept it cordial and nice. Cracked a few jokes here and there to lighten the mood. I felt bad. We're really close and I know she noticed me pulling away and avoiding her eye contact. When we got home she slept on the couch. I offered for her to sleep in my bed but she ignored me. I obviously don't want her to sleep with me because I'm still upset but I also don't want her to hurt her back on the sofa. They've all just left now and I won't see my sisters for another week. I feel weird. I miss my sister. I feel horrible that I need to pull away and that all of this has happened. I think I'm going to write her a text message explaining my perspective. I will make it clear that I love her but everything that has happened has really hurt me. If you have any ideas for what else I should tell her, let me know. Thank you so much for everyone's attention and care to my situation. I feel as if I've matured 10 years in just 24 hours. Stories number 29. Aita for still hanging out with my nephew. My 32M younger brother 26M cheated on his wife, Laura 29F with his coworker, Joan 31F, which resulted in my nephew being born. He's honestly the most adorable, sweetest and cutest baby I've ever seen. He's 2 years old now. My brother, being the idiot that he is, was egged on by his wife to cut off all contact with Joan and the baby except for the bare minimum child support. However, my husband, Tom 27M, I and my parents agreed to be involved heavily in my nephew's life, filling in the role of fun uncles and grandparents. Joan and my nephew hang out with us quite often. Naturally, whenever we have a family get-together, my parents also invite Joan and my nephew. But, Laura told us that it hurts her to see a constant reminder of her husband's infidelity at every party, and demanded us to cut contact with Joan. We i.e. I, my husband and my parents told her that she can feel free to not come at our parties, nobody's forcing her to. But it's completely our right who we choose to hang out with it. Stories number 30. Some kid felt entitled to my plushie and told me I'm too old to like them. I late 20s, female am a sucker for everything cute and still in possession of a lot of plushies. I got a fair share of bag tags that are technically plushies too. One of them has big shiny eyes and a rainbow on it. I bought it as a souvenir at a theme park one time when I went there with a close friend. It looks great on my favorite bag. Today it apparently caught the attention of a 7-year-old girl who asked me about it. Judging by her tone of voice and the way she asked, I think she assumed that my bag tag was handed out to me for free. So I told her I bought it from my own money. She then reconsidered for a second but still proceeded to ask me if I'd give it to her. Clear no from me. She then questioned why I even wanted it. That's where I started to get a bit mad but I tried to keep in mind that it's still a child so I reversed the question and asked her why she wants it, hoping to make her realize that not only children like cute things and plushies. She then told me it's for children and since she is a child, I should give it to her. Fortunately I eventually got her to understand that she's not entitled to other people's stuff and that others might feel the same way she does, which made her stop pushing. I think it's sad when children tell adults the things they like are childish. What does that tell about their childhood? Shouldn't it be fine to still enjoy the things you already liked as a child as long as you don't break anything because you're too tall, heavy, and don't act creepy? Stories number 31. Whipped for telling my MIL to change where her mail is sent, or I'll tell her husband. For the last couple years or so, my MIL late 50s early 60s has been having the mail for her insurance policies sent to the home I 30 share with my husband 34. Her reasoning is that my FIL late 50s doesn't believe in insurance and thinks it's a waste of money. MIL used to be an insurance agent and keeps policies on her direct family members. She made our house the default address to hide the policies from FIL, and didn't tell us she did so until after we received the first bit of mail. At the time, I raised a stink about it to my husband because I really hate that she's hiding shit behind her husband's back. I still hold that position and have made it known to Hubs, but we've kept it up to keep the peace. Hubs and I are now low to no contact with my MIL, for reasons not related to the mail, a combination of reasons, many political, religious, and general disrespect of boundaries. We see her when we see the rest of the family for birthdays and holidays and are generally cordial to each other. There have been moments of temper flares, screaming argument at Disney, anyone but mostly fine. Because of all this, I do not want her mail coming to my house. I've asked Hubs to tell her to change the address, but he doesn't because he has her blocked and doesn't want to make a scene. Would I be the asshole if I gave her the mail, and said that if the mailing address wasn't changed by the end of the month I would tell my FIL? I want to go straight to FIL and just go nuclear, but it would be hypocritical of me to interfere in their garbage marriage when I've complained about them doing the same to me. Plus it would create even more friction between him and my husband because he played a part in hiding her mail. Hubs has said I am being confrontational and thinks we should just throw the mail away, but at the end of the day I'm not a monster and don't want something to happen to her money or SMTH and her not know. So Reddit, Whipta, edit. Wow, lots of mixed opinions on this one. Gotta say, I will defo own the YTAs. It was definitely a knee-jerk reaction I was contemplating. It'd be out of line and just plain spiteful of me to say something to FIL. I asked Hub one more time to tell his mom to change the address. If he doesn't, then I plan to follow the advice of someone here and unblock to ask politely to change the address. I am nervous to return to sender because some people here have said it could mean cancellation of the policies and I don't want that for her, but I don't like the idea she could be establishing residency or something here either. Some questions that keep coming up. She used to specialize in life insurance, so that is the type of policy I assume these are. I know from 5+ years ago that there are life insurance policies for her, FIL, Hub, and his brother because she told me about it. I don't know what the policies I've been getting mail is for. It could be a life insurance for her, it could be she is the beneficiary, I have no idea and I can't exactly open her mail to find out. Reasonably sure financial abuse is not a factor in this. She and FIL have separate finances / pay bills separately, only thing that she has restricting her money is medical CC debt. Yes, my FIL is short-sighted and kind of an idiot for not believing in insurance. He's a stubborn old dude who doesn't always have a concept of what things cost. Yes, my in-laws have an extremely toxic and ugly relationship. They're people that should have just gotten divorced 30 years ago, but because God says no they stay together hating each other and judging people that do divorce. Dead ass, they told my 8-year-old nephew his parents were going to hell because they got divorced. MIL will never do paperless, end of story. She's one of those people that's convinced if she thinks about the internet for too long her data will be sold to China or something. My beef was never about the fact the policies exist. I believe in insurance, especially in the US where the medical system is busted and the funeral death industry is outrageously expensive. My problem was and has always been feeling like I'm sneaking behind my FIL's back to help her hide things, when I would never do that to my own partner. Sneaking around and lying in general is not something I'm comfortable with in pretty much any situation. If it was a case of abuse or something like that it'd be different, but as it stands it just makes me feel like I'm compromising my morals helping her lie to her husband. Honestly, yes, there's probably just a lot of spite on my end. If only because I've seen how she and FIL for that matter has done so much to hurt my husband in so many little ways and has shaped him into someone who doesn't believe me when I say he's a smart, talented, handsome human being who is wanted by people in his life. It's not all her fault, of course not. I'm not naive enough to be able to pin everything back to my in-laws. There's so much more shit at play. But I can trace a direct line between him feeling like he's not allowed to express emotions and mommy using him as her personal therapist. I sent flowers to the wrong apartment. She showed up at my door 3 days later and changed everything. So, yeah. This all started because I can't type a building number correctly. Let me back up. I, 32M, live in a medium-sized apartment complex. Not huge, not tiny, your standard mix of young professionals, couples, and mysterious people who never seem to leave their units except to retrieve DoorDash. I moved in about 9 months ago after a rough breakup and a cross-state job relocation. Fresh start, right? I've been casually seeing this girl, Clara, for a couple of months. Nothing too serious, but I liked her. She was sweet, artsy, always humming under her breath, and had this way of making everything feel like a scene from an indie movie. She'd crash at my place sometimes, leave behind her favorite mug, make my apartment smell like lavender and almond milk lattes. So, one morning, 3 weeks ago, I decided to do something nice. She'd just had a rough week at work, and I thought, hey, let's be that guy. The one who sends flowers just because. I ordered a bouquet online. Peonies, her favorite. Added a note, you make Tuesday mornings worth waking up for. Corny. Absolutely. But it felt right. I filled out the delivery info, my name, her name, and what I thought was her apartment number. That's where I messed up. See, Clara lives in Building C, Unit 214. I, for reasons unknown, possibly caffeine deprivation, possibly stupidity, typed in Unit 241. Same building. Different unit. 2 floors up. I didn't realize it until 3 days later. Clara texted me, a simple, did you mean to send me flowers? I replied, yeah. Why? She said, because. I didn't get any. Cue confusion, frantic order checking, and then that forehead slap moment when I saw my mistake in the confirmation email. I was annoyed at myself, obviously. But also, I kind of just hoped whoever got the flowers enjoyed them. Maybe they brightened someone's day. Maybe they'd just been dumped or laid off or stubbed their toe really hard. It happens. Fast forward to 3 days later. Friday night. I'm in sweats, no plans, half a pizza in my lap and some terrible true crime documentary playing in the background. There's a knock on my door, not the postman knock. Not the neighbor who wants you to move your car knock. It's a hesitant knock. Almost polite. I open the door, and standing there is a girl I've never seen before. She's barefoot, holding a vase of peonies, wearing plaid pajama pants and a Bowie t-shirt that's at least one size too big. Hair tied up in a loose bun. No makeup. She's got this look on her face like she's not entirely sure why she's standing there either. I blink. She says, I think you sent me these by mistake. I glance down at the flowers. My flowers. The note still tucked into the side. She's holding them like they're fragile, like they meant something. Like she didn't just toss them in the trash after realizing they weren't hers. I sort of fumble out, oh. Yeah. That, probably wasn't for you. Sorry about that. She laughs. Laughs, not a mocking laugh. Not awkward. Just, amused. Like the whole thing is delightfully absurd. She says, I figured. But they've been sitting on my table all week, and honestly, I kind of got attached to them. Hope you don't mind. I shake my head. Nah, they're yours now. And then she hesitates. She shifts the vase to one hand and extends the other. I'm Tessa, by the way. Unit 241. I was going to just leave them at the office, but then I read the note. I raise an eyebrow. She shrugs. I liked it. We end up talking. Right there in the hallway. For, like, 20 minutes. I learn she's a grad student, studying environmental policy or climate something. I kind of zone out because I'm watching how animated her hands get when she talks. She's got this way of saying things like she expects you to challenge her. Not confrontational. Just confident. Eventually, I invite her in. I mean, at this point it would have been weird not to. She sits on the edge of my couch like she doesn't quite belong but is curious enough to stay. We eat pizza. Watch the rest of the terrible documentary. She makes fun of the narrator's voice. I pretend to be offended. She tells me peonies were her mom's favorite flower, and that getting them out of nowhere, even by accident, felt like a weird little sign from the universe. At some point she says, do you think things happen for a reason? And I say, only when I'm not in control. She says, that's kind of profound for a guy in Star Wars pajama pants. I say, thank you. They're limited edition. She stays until 1 a.m. We don't kiss. We don't touch. Just sit on the couch talking like people who've known each other longer than 90 minutes. And when she leaves, she takes the flowers with her, but not before she adds a new note, scribbled on a receipt she found in her bag. She tucks it into the vase and grins. I don't read it until after she's gone. It says, you made Friday nights feel like something again. T. Update, I sent flowers to the wrong apartment. She showed up at my door 3 days later and changed everything. So, things got weird. Like, movie script you'd roll your eyes at weird. After that night with Tessa, our accidental pizza and flowers not date, I couldn't stop thinking about her. Not in some dramatic, love at first sight kind of way. It was more like, a soft pull. That lingering curiosity that sits in your chest like an unanswered question. She was just different. Unfiltered. Honest in a way that made you want to match her energy or be left behind. No pretense. No performative coolness. Anyway, 2 days go by. I don't text her. She doesn't text me. Which makes sense, since we never actually exchanged numbers. I didn't even think about that until I realized I kept checking my phone like a lunatic expecting something that couldn't physically happen. So I did something kind of bold. I went upstairs and knocked on her door. No flowers this time. Just me and my hands in my pockets, trying not to look like I was coming to sell solar panels. She answered in leggings and a hoodie, clearly mid-laundry or Netflix coma. She looked surprised, but she smiled. I said, "Hey." So I realized we didn't do that whole number exchange thing. And I figured that was dumb. She smirked. Took you long enough. We went for a walk that night. No destination. Just wandered around the neighborhood, talking about everything and nothing. She told me about her thesis and how she low-key hates group projects. I told her about my job in UX design and how sometimes I pretend to be busier than I am so I can go sit in bookstores without anyone bothering me. It felt easy, but here's where things get messy. Because life loves timing, right? Clara, the girl I'd originally meant to send the flowers to, texted me later that week. She said she'd been thinking that maybe we'd let something good fizzle too fast. Asked if I wanted to grab dinner. And here's the thing, Clara was good. She is good. There was nothing wrong with her. No cheating, no fighting, no major red flags. We just kind of coasted apart. But when she texted, I hesitated. I didn't immediately say no, which made me feel like garbage. I was still technically single. Nothing had happened with Tessa. But emotionally, I felt like I was already shifting. Like one foot was moving forward before the other had agreed to follow. Still, I didn't want to ghost Clara. That's never been my style, so I met her for dinner. We had Thai. It was fine. She looked great, smelled like whatever expensive perfume she always wore, and laughed at all the same parts she used to. But it felt like I was trying to read a book I'd already finished, out of order. We talked for about an hour. Then, toward the end, she leaned in and asked, "So, can we try again?" And for the first time since we started talking, I hesitated before answering. I said, "I don't know." Clara blinked. That's not a no. It's not a yes either. She didn't get upset. Just nodded, quietly. Paid for her half, hugged me goodbye, and left. That was 4 days ago. Since then, I've seen Tessa 3 times. Once for coffee, once when she invited me up to try her experimental cinnamon muffins, spoiler, they were weirdly amazing, and once just to sit on her balcony while she vented about a guy in her cohort who constantly quotes TED Talks. She still hasn't asked about Clara. I haven't told her. Part of me wonders if she already knows. Apartment buildings are tiny ecosystems. Word gets around. But maybe she's waiting to see if I'll bring it up. Maybe she's giving me space to figure it out. Or maybe she's just here for now, not thinking past next week. I don't even know what this is between us, but I do know this, I feel lighter when I'm with her. Less like I'm trying to be the right kind of guy for someone, and more like I'm just being. So now I'm stuck between something familiar and something unknown. Between comfort and possibility. Between a girl I used to like, and one I'm starting to care about without even realizing when it started. And yeah. It all started with a typo, a wrong number, a delivery meant for someone else. I don't know how this ends. But I do know I'm not looking at apartment numbers the same anymore. Update 2, I sent flowers to the wrong apartment. She showed up at my door 3 days later and changed everything. So, things unraveled a little. Or maybe they just finally started revealing what was always underneath. After that dinner with Clara and a few soft, simple nights with Tessa, I tried to coast. Tried to live in the gray area, telling myself I needed time. Space. Clarity. But time doesn't give clarity. Honesty does. And I hadn't been honest, not with Tessa, not with Clara, and definitely not with myself. Let's start with the night things tipped. It was a Wednesday. One of those weird in-between nights where the city feels half asleep and half lonely. I was scrolling through my phone, half watching some documentary on volcanoes, and I saw a message from Clara. Just 2 words. Still thinking. No follow-up. No context. Just, that. And I stared at it for a good minute, feeling a tight twist in my chest. Because part of me wanted to respond. I wanted to comfort her. I wanted to be the guy who didn't leave someone hanging. But the bigger part of me knew, if I responded, I'd be answering something way deeper than a text. I didn't reply. Instead, I walked up to Tessa's place. Didn't even text first. Just knocked. She opened the door, hair wet from a shower, hoodie hanging off one shoulder. She blinked, surprised, but smiled like she'd been expecting me anyway. We sat on her couch. She handed me a beer without asking, like she always does. And we talked. About small things at first. Classes. Favorite breakfast cereals. The time her brother shaved one eyebrow off in 6th grade to see what would happen. Then, I said it. The thing I'd been circling around since day one. I saw Clara the other night. She didn't flinch. Didn't stiffen. Just nodded. Okay, and I didn't tell you. Because I was scared it would mess this up. She tilted her head. Is there a this? I hated how much the question shook me. Because I didn't have a clean answer. What we had wasn't defined, but it meant something. The kind of something you don't say out loud because it feels too fragile to name. I said, I think so. She looked down at her drink. Swirled it a little, then she said, I knew. Not about the dinner. But I could tell something was, held back. I waited for the fallout. For the anger or the cutting sarcasm or the quiet retreat. But she just looked at me. Really looked at me. Then she said something I'll probably never forget. People don't fall for each other cleanly. They fall like books off a shelf, loud, messy, and sometimes in the wrong order. I didn't know what to say to that. So I didn't say anything. I just reached for her hand. She let me. That night was the first time I stayed over. Not in a hookup way, nothing happened. We just lay there. Lights off. The hum of the city through the window. Her breathing steady beside me. And in that silence, I realized something. This wasn't just a misdelivered bouquet anymore. This was becoming real. And real deserved clean lines. So the next morning, I texted Clara. I told her I was sorry. That I'd felt something once, and maybe part of me still would always care, but that part had faded. That what we had was a chapter, not a future. I told her she deserved someone who ran toward her without hesitation, not someone who kept glancing backward. She didn't reply. And honestly, I don't blame her. Tessa and we're still undefined. She's careful with labels, says she doesn't believe in milestones so much as moments. I'm okay with that, but we're building something. Slowly. Intentionally. Some days we sit in total silence, reading separate books, legs touching. Other days we talk for hours, looping through big ideas and dumb memes and shared playlists. Once, we tried to cook something together and nearly set her smoke alarm off. It was the ugliest quiche known to man, but she said it tasted like second chances. And maybe that's what this is. A second chance born out of a wrong number and the right timing. I still think about how weirdly fragile the whole thing is. How if I'd typed her unit number correctly, if she'd ignored the flowers, if she hadn't knocked, but she did knock, and I opened the door. So yeah. Maybe I didn't just send flowers to the wrong apartment. Maybe I sent them home. Final update, I sent flowers to the wrong apartment. She showed up at my door 3 days later and changed everything. I think every story has a moment where things settle, not because everything becomes perfect, but because you finally stop fighting what's real. This is that moment for me. It's been about 3 months since I stood in the hallway with a bouquet meant for someone else. 3 months since a girl I'd never met knocked on my door holding a card I never intended for her. And 3 months since I realized the universe has a very chaotic sense of humor. So, where do we stand now? Tessa and I are officially together. No gray area. No unspoken maybes. We didn't have a talk, exactly, it happened gradually, like fog lifting. One night we were walking back from a late-night taco truck, and she just reached for my hand and didn't let go the whole way home. I didn't overthink it. I didn't ask questions. I just let it be. She started calling it our weird little love story. And honestly, it is weird. But it's ours. We still live one floor apart. We don't sleep over every night. We still like our space. But she'll text me random memes or ask me if I want to come taste test whatever chaotic kitchen experiment she's trying that week. I've now eaten burnt banana bread, something she swore was vegan lasagna, it was neither, and the world's saddest sushi roll. I regret none of it. She's met my mom. That was a ride. My mom loved her instantly because Tessa showed up with tulips and asked questions about her soup recipe. 10 minutes in, they were bonding over astrology and making fun of me for being a Capricorn who definitely overthinks everything. She's also met my best friend Jake, who definitely had reservations after I told him how all this started. But after spending one afternoon with her, he texted me, "Okay, yeah, she's got main character energy. Don't screw this up." I'm trying not to, but that brings me to the last loose thread, Clara. We didn't speak again, until a few weeks ago. I ran into her at a bookstore of all places. She was with a friend, I was alone, and it was one of those moments that sneaks up on you before you can brace for it. She looked great, different somehow. Lighter. We made awkward small talk at first. She asked how I was. I told her I was seeing someone. She smiled, nodded. Then she said, "I'm glad." That's how it should have ended. I asked what she meant. She said, "You were never meant to circle back to me." I think we were both just afraid of moving forward alone. And she was right. We hugged. It wasn't sad. Just peaceful. Like we both stopped trying to rewrite a chapter that was already finished. I haven't seen her since. But that moment gave me something I didn't know I needed, release. So yeah. That's it. The story of how I tried to send closure to one person and accidentally opened a door to someone else entirely. Sometimes the best things come from the messiest beginnings. From the typos, the missteps, the things you can't plan. And sometimes a bouquet meant for someone else ends up in the hands of exactly who it was always supposed to reach. All I know is this, I'll never send flowers without triple checking the address again. But I'm also kind of glad I got it wrong that day, because getting it wrong led me somewhere very right. Thanks for sticking around, Reddit. You really never know what's waiting one floor up.